Hi friends, it's Kara. Welcome back to Really Famous. As you know, Julian McMahon was a regular on my podcast. I'm still processing the news that he died, but when I think of him, it is all good things. We had such good times. When I think of him, I smile, I laugh, all good things. He was fun, open-minded, inquisitive, up for whatever, with a smile, whether it was coming back on my podcast for a third time, but this time to interview me, or doing an impromptu dance with me on the Malibu Pier, just so I'd have something fun to share on social media. He had the best approach to life, in my humble opinion. He loved it all: life, work, entertainment, family, people, the big things, the small things. And he was not like all about himself at all. The reason he came back on my show the third time to interview me was because I could tell during our first talks that he was also a really interested person, interested in other people. So I knew he'd be good at that. I think you'll agree. So here's my tribute to him, simply replaying the first 3 episodes we did together. We did a 4th, sort of, but you'll have to go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/reallyfamous, to see that one. It wasn't a formal podcast episode. It was a catch-up video we made in 2023 when we met up in California. My intention was that it would be a quick 5-minute update, like, hey, what have you been doing since leaving FBI? So all I brought with me was my iPhone and a tripod, no microphone, so the audio was not good. Plus it was on the pier, so, there was like Pacific Ocean waves in the background. Anyway, it was a great catch up. He was such a good sport. We danced in front of the camera. He answered my questions, big and small, and we talked for way more than 5 minutes. And then we sat down and ate lunch on the pier, no cameras. So we were just catching up as we would do between episodes. At that time, I had been thinking about developing Really Famous into a TV series, which he had known about. And I was also telling him about my new venture into being an on-set therapist for TV and film productions. So during lunch, we talked about that. We also talked about expanding on YouTube, which I had already been doing and which he was also looking into at the time. And he was all, Kara, don't give up on your vision for yourself. You have a really special show. Keep going with it. So that was Julian, as I remember him. Here are our talks in order. The first one starts right away. It's when we first met over Zoom during the pandemic. And the next one begins about an hour and 23 minutes after that, if you want to skip to that one, if you had already heard the first one. And then the third, which is when he and I met in New York and he interviewed me, is an episode I labeled 2 of 2. And then the fourth is on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/reallyfamous. Thanks for listening.
Hi there, I'm Julian McMahon, and I just spent some time with Kara, the lovely Kara, and we had a great time. I really hope you enjoy this interview.
Hi, I'm Kara Mayer Robinson, and this is Really Famous. My guest today is Julian McMahon. So Julian stars in the new CBS series FBI Most Wanted, which is a spinoff of the original series FBI. Julian plays Jess LaCroix, a seasoned agent who oversees a highly skilled mobile undercover unit that's in constant pursuit of seriously nasty bad guys. So Julian is probably best known for his stint as plastic surgeon Christian Troy on FX's Nip Tuck. If you haven't seen it or you want to rewatch it, you can catch it now. You can binge it on Hulu. You may also know Julian from the Fantastic Four movies, Charmed and Runaways. This was my first time talking to him, and it was great. I really enjoyed our talk, and I think you will too. He opens up about how Nip Tuck affected him pretty deeply, actually. Some lessons he learned in Hollywood, how FX consciously branded itself and basically went from not much of anything to being everything. We also talk about Julian's family and his dogs, how he's living right now, and a lot more. So we get into some good stuff. He's a regular guy, and I mean that in the very best way. So we recorded this a few days ago on Zoom, which reminds me, We were Zoom bombed. Well, not really, but sort of, because my next interview guest popped in a little bit early. So you'll hear that. I left it in. I was like, this is how it went down, so why shouldn't you be part of that? And since it was on Zoom, it also means you can watch Julian and me. You can just jump onto my YouTube channel, which is thriving, at youtube.com/reallyfamous. Be sure to catch FBI Most Wanted. It's on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock on CBS. In fact, the last episode airs tonight.
I can hear you. How are you?
Good. How are you, Julian?
I'm so sorry I'm running late. I had a very odd occurrence. A bird came flying in my office area here, and first of all, my dog tried to catch it. And the next thing you know, I'm chasing the dog and the bird, and I tried to get out of here, and that took me about 10 minutes. So apologies.
That's all right. That's how it should be, right? That's where we are right now. We're doing our work from home. Our dogs are there. And sometimes I guess a bird gets in too.
It's pretty funny, isn't it?
It's funny. So how did a bird get in?
Well, I had all the windows open before, because I like having the windows open and the air going through the house and whatever else. So I just had the windows open. I literally was going to close it. This bird came flying in, and the next thing you know, I'm chasing it all around the place.
That is so funny. I love it. So how are you doing in isolation?
Gosh, it's been an interesting journey, hasn't it? I'm sure that everybody's kind of going through a similar kind of experience, and you kind of have to preface this whole thing with, all of these people that are doing these extraordinary tasks at the same time that the rest of us are sitting at home.
Sure.
Including everybody who delivers everything every day. And, you see the UPS guy or the FedEx or the UPS, PPS or whatever. Everybody's kind of, you know what I mean? I just kind of, every time I see them, I'm like, hey, thank you very much for being so kind. But no, it's been an interesting experience. I mean, the whole thing started off kind of very fear-based, a little bit hysterical and a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And then, after I kind of got us all together, and I mean, my family all together, it kind of turned into something else, I kind of realized it was an opportunity to spend time with my daughter and with my wife that I probably won't get again, to literally, she's a college kid. She doesn't want to be hanging out with her parents all the time.
I feel you. I've got one of those too.
Have you got one of those? Okay. So it's kind of like this forced goodness in a way. And I certainly don't mean to make light of the circumstances that we're in, but, it's really given me an opportunity to spend a lot of time with her. And I just, she's doing her college work and all that kind of stuff. And I hang on class. Her classes are so fascinating, by the way. I'm like,
oh, really?
I'll go back to college. That looks like a way better deal,
What is she studying and where is she? I mean, obviously she's home now, but where's she home from?
She goes to in North Carolina, UNC.
Okay, great school.
Yeah. And she's studying. She's doing a social studies thing. She's doing a art history. What else is she doing? I know that she was interested. I actually think she's picking up film and television, and she's picking up production for next semester. So she's got a kind of a mix of different things. The art history I'm actually kind of mostly fascinated with, but all of her classes are great. They're very conversational, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're very kind of, they just sit there and everybody's chatting. I keep kind of wanting to pipe in, I want to say something.
That's so funny. And I'm kind of going through phases of being in the isolation. Like I was pretty good at the beginning, felt grateful, felt appreciative for everyone who's doing everything that they're doing. And now I'm just kind of like, okay, I think I'm getting a little stir crazy and I'm really ready to get up and go again, but it's not time.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting process, isn't it? I mean, because and it's also things like, I don't know about you, but I do things like, I get a little bit obsessive about reading the news and seeing what's coming and what's going and what things are going on. And then I realize that I'm reading the same kind of thing over and over again. And I'm kind of digging myself into a hole. But, it's just, there's so many different kind of evolutions that you go through. Yesterday, it was a great example of a day. I was just like, what? I just want to do something normal. I just want us to go back to normal. And and in a way, I don't even want it to go back to normal. In a way, I kind of want it to go back to a better version of us just because we've gone through this kind of process, whatever you want to call it in regards to that type of thing. but like yesterday, I was kind of feeling a little natty about the whole thing, and I was kind of like, "Come on, man, let's get back to normal and whatever else." And then I had a phone call from a friend of mine. I heard this story, and I was like, "Okay." After that story, I'm just going to be grateful for everything that I have, because people are going through such kind of horrible situations and circumstances, and it's kind of nice to get a little kick in the pants to say, okay, but you do have to live in your own existence at the same time. And your own existence is, I don't know, are you in your office or?
Yeah, this is like my office, which also doubles as the dining room. So it's the office, it's the dining room, it's everything.
Yeah, everything. Look, you know what I mean? We're just kind of hanging out in living rooms and stuff. Yeah. So it's been an interesting kind of, as I say, evolution, and it's an interesting kind of emotional journey you kind of go on, isn't it? Because there's days where I feel like the planet is getting all of this goodness, and we're getting this great time with our families and all of that kind of stuff. And then there are times when I feel very kind of, closed in and kind of boxed in, you know what I mean? With the inability to do anything or go anywhere. So
are you generally like an extrovert or an introvert, or what? Do you like to be by yourself, and like, do you recharge yourself when you're alone?
I do kind of have the necessity to have time on my own. It just kind of gives me time to kind of have some of my own mental kind of state, if that makes sense. But I'm a pretty gregarious guy, and I like being around people. But I think that kind of one begets the other. If you allow yourself the time and the space to spend with yourself, you actually kind of get the ability to communicate and be with other people a lot stronger and a lot better. And probably vice versa, now that I'm thinking about it too. So it's probably the other way around as well. So your ability to socialize also, if you're conscious about the whole thing, also gives you the ability to kind of internalize when you have that time to yourself.
I heard you say something in an interview somewhere that you took some time off. I guess it was after Nip Tuck or whatever, because you felt like you really wanted to spend time with your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How did that go? Was that a weird transition?
Well, it was an interesting period of time. I mean, I took time off initially because I was just completely exhausted. I'd done the Fantastic Four movies and a show called Nip Tuck at the same time, and my schedule was just kind of bananas. I was in Los Angeles for half a week, and then Canada or Alaska or something for the other half of the week, and flying in between. And I guess the one good thing about it was the same time zone. But for a few years there, in fact, I worked pretty much solidly for almost 20 years without taking much of a break. And so I kind of, the Nip Tuck show and doing Fantastic Four at the same time, it just took a lot out of me. And by the time we finished, we actually did 8 seasons of Nip Tuck. So it went for a long time. It was long hours, and it was a very kind of, it was a kind of an emotional journeyed piece, you know what I mean? It was like and also a no holds barred kind of piece that you were exposed consistently, So after doing that for a period of time, I felt like I just needed some time to kind of regather and reboot and do all of those kind of things. And then in the midst of it, I actually remember finishing, and I thought, oh, what am I gonna do with my time,
It's a little scary too, right? At that same time,
it was a necessity. So it was just kind of plain and simple to me. The scary part came later on when I decided to get back into the business. That's when you kind of realize how much traction you've lost.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kind of restart that whole thing, which was really I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't kind of recognize or understand the levity and the level to which that was kind of prevalent. And
so, what did that involve? What was that actually like? So did you feel like, okay, now I'm ready, it's time to start up again? You call your agent, say, get me some jobs or whatever, and then it's just what?
So what happened was, I after leaving the show, I decided to just kind of inject myself into my daughter's life. And I did everything. I was like the crazy parent that was at every, you name it, I was there. Every meeting, setting up the stuff for Easter, setting up the stuff for Halloween, running around the neighborhood with the kids, and and I loved it, absolutely loved it. then I kind of thought, okay, is it time to maybe get back to work after a couple of years of not working? And it was kind of a bit of a graduation process. I had to go through different levels of, okay, is this really what I was literally about to purchase. I wasn't sure I was going to go back to the business, to be honest. I was about to purchase a cattle farm, and I was raised on a cattle farm. So I kind of thought, perhaps it's time to get back to the roots, so to speak, and kind of head down that path. I'm not too sure. I remember I would drive past sets and just kind of feel uncomfortable because, California, you're driving around all these sets, and I'd be like, ugh. And then I remember distinctively driving past one day and thinking, oh, I wonder what they're shooting. And it was the first time in years, literally years. And I went, oh, hold on, that's a change of, and it was literally right at this time when I was starting to think of this whole move in a different direction. So then coming back into it, I decided to kind of take it slow. So I kind of rebooted everything. I had new people managing me and new agents and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of wanted to test the waters and see where it was at. And we had a few bites in certain directions, and I started working on different things. At that time, most production wasn't happening in Los Angeles. I mean, I remember shooting in Vancouver, and there were I think it was 68 productions happening in Vancouver and 2 in Los Angeles or something. So
yeah, I think that was before LA came back with the tax credits or whatever, right? So everything was in Vancouver. Yeah. And New York was starting up at that point.
Well, also Atlanta and New York was going big time. Everything was going to New York. I knew I couldn't go to New York and live because I just needed to be with my daughter. Anyway, so we did a couple of things, went to Australia for a couple of things, went to Vancouver, went to Georgia, did a few different things. And I kind of realized that each time I went somewhere that my daughter just didn't handle it very well. And so we kind of had a discussion, and she said, look, I'd rather that you were home. And so that was that. Then that became a decision. Okay, what do we do? What do we do work-wise? There's nothing in Los Angeles. So I kind of, handed it over to the movie gods and told my guys, okay, I can't do anything unless it's in Los Angeles. Uh-huh. And they were like, oh, that's great. So you got, 2 things to pick from. And then we got a call kind of out of nowhere from a Marvel production called Runaways, which was a TV series I did before I did Most Wanted. And they just asked me to come on board for it was a two-year period, and it was actually kind of worked perfectly with my daughter's kind of high school and then, heading to college kind of period. And I said, we had this, discussions about everything, and they were just so great. And I said, look, I really need to be with my daughter, and when she goes to college, I need support and being able to go and, tuck her into college properly and do all those kind of things that parents are supposed to be doing. And they were really gracious about all of that. So it kind of worked out perfectly. And then she went to college, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting around. Literally, my wife would come in and find me sitting in her bedroom, and I'd be like, is she coming back soon?
Aww.
And,
but wait, back up though.
What's that?
Back up a second though, because you said it was really you realized when you got back into it that you had lost some ground. So, but it sounds like everything was easy and smooth. So what would?
No, well, it just wasn't kind of, the level with which I left at was kind of at the prime of my kind of, what do you call it? Certainly height of my fame.
Right? Fame, celebrity, sure.
United States, celebrity, all of that kind of stuff. But also just internally in the business, your cachet in the business is a certain level. And my cachet when I left it was very high, and I was getting some pretty fantastic offers to do things, which I had to turn down. And, I kind of came in thinking, I probably would be getting the same kind of offers.
Right.
Ridiculously so, by the way. Once I kind of sat down with myself and we had a chat with myself, I realized that I was kind of not thinking properly. But, I kind of, that was a bit of a, it was a bit of an eye opener for me. It was a bit of, okay, how do I do this? How do you kind of kick this into gear at this time in your life, at this, you're not in my 20s anymore. You're not starting a career like a normal actor or performer does, and you get things and then you're kind of going. And I said, but I have to do that at this time in my life, just in a different fashion. So, I just kind of started pushing those things. And then I actually, when I was kind of working out what I wanted to do, I started thinking about network television. I hadn't done network television for a long time. And I kind of also was thinking about what kind of character I wanted to play. And I felt like I wanted to play a good guy, like just a solid good guy. And then I also was interested in, the kind of constraints that network television have, as opposed to the kind of lack of constraints that cable television.
Yeah, much more structured and reliable. Yeah.
Very defined. It's come out of a particular, cable's probably still developing, but certainly Nip Tuck was at the kind of forefront of the way that whole thing kind of moved, and how it, we pushed those boundaries and we opened those doors and we did all of those things. And I kind of wanted to shut them all again and see what was interesting there with having these particular parameters. And so I had a few meetings over at networks and whatever else. I really hit it off with the guys over at CBS, just a great group of guys and girls over there. And I just started reading scripts, and I was reading script after script after script. A couple of them I liked, a couple of them I was like, a couple I didn't, and whatever else. And you're going to go through that kind of process. And then I got the Most Wanted script, and it was one of those kind of moments where you go, you just really connect with that character. You really connect with the piece. I connect with the whole piece, not just my character. The fact that you've got this great character, particularly with the relationship with his daughter, the whole family thing there, and then this unique kind of group of 5 guys and girls who go, kind of on this road tripping kind of journey together every episode, and then it comes kind of back to this family kind of thing.
It's interesting too, I think, because the difference between CBS's FBI, like what do they call that one? The FBI would be the what? Like the I don't know, the main FBI, right?
We call it the mothership.
Oh, the mothership. Okay. So the mothership.
You don't have to call it the mothership.
So I've had a few guests or some actors on the mothership on Really Famous too. So, but it's interesting. So Jeremy Sisto was on the show. We talked last year, and Celia Ward, who's no longer on FBI, I guess, but she was last year. But like Jeremy's role, for example, so he's right there in that one area, but you in Most Wanted, you're in all of the scenes, like you're from start to finish, right? You're out there and doing it. Whereas they sort of have separate teams for the mothership, right? People who do specific things. So it's a little more work for you, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
A lot.
It's a lot more work. A lot more work as an actor, a lot more work just being on screen, a lot more work physically. We're always shoving off to upstate New York, over to Jersey, onto the island, or you know what I mean? Like, but that was kind of the fun of it. It's a road show, and it's a road show journey that you take, and I think that the interesting thing about it that I kind of recognized and I purposely, took it. That was one of the reasons that I really wanted the part. But it was interesting once you kind of get into those environments, how much you realize they play a part in the show, and also how much they play a part in the way that you play the piece, or the scene. Because you just, we did a crossover episode a few episodes ago that aired a few episodes ago with the original FBI and ours. I call them FBI and call ours Most Wanted. That's how I kind of define the two. But we did a crossover. It was great. It was really fascinating going there and seeing the completely different environments with which they kind of exist. And Jeremy, I've been a fan of Jeremy's for a long time, but it's just so great to go in and watch Jeremy do his thing around that room with he's got like 40 guys that he's talking to and stuff. And he's got this whole thing going. And he's got the pencil
and the thing in his ear.
And I'm just like sitting there going, this is awesome. This is so cool, Very, as the character Jess, he couldn't be in a more uncomfortable environment than that space, right? And we talked about this a lot between Alana and myself and Jeremy when we were kind of trying to piece together the way that crossover worked with those three characters predominantly, because those three characters had a very strong background together. So they all came through the academy together. They all came through the business together, and they all made very definitive choices to go in different directions. Jess, my character, went on the road, chasing bad guys. Alana went more politically, so she's kind of the boss, and she deals with the political side of things. And then Jeremy's in his room that he kind of commands and works from on a consistent basis. So it was just it was really kind of a kind of fun thing to experience that set. And then with ours, you get this. Because the environment is so specific, so you're either out in the woods, you're out in the snow, you're in some weird hotel, motel, back room thingo, or you're in some, you know what I mean? Like there's always this kind of.
Yeah. So it puts you into that headspace, I guess, big time.
Yeah. The
right.
scenario just fits, you know what I mean? Like when you're there, like the episode that aired last night, I was doing some Instagram stuff on it last night, and, the photography that we used for it was so particular to the individual that we're chasing. It was just so cool. We had the way we lit that. I didn't light it. The way the DP lit it, Ludo lit it, was just this beautiful hue of greens and reds and yellows and this white kind of misty thing happening. And it kind of really, me and the DPs always talk a lot about trying to inject the kind of thematics of the piece in that particular script in the way that we shoot it, and in the way that it's lit, and the way that we even come into the room, and the way that that's photographed and everything. And I was just kind of reminded of how kind of beautiful some of that stuff was, particularly. Actually, all of the episodes, because we did everything. But I just remember specifically because this is one of the later ones that we shot. But Ludo and I Ludo being the DP, discussing that lighting kind of stuff. And it just creates a scenario where you just don't really have to do that much, to be honest. You kind of just have to be there, and everything else kind of speaks for you.
Yeah, it all works together. It's so interesting. And it is so different. I mean, when you took Nip Tuck, so that was FX, right?
Yep.
So was that the first like FX series that was like at that caliber, or no? Am I getting it wrong?
You're slightly wrong, but you're not too far wrong. So the show that came before it was called The Shield, starring Michael Chip.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
And they had actually won an Emmy. I think maybe certainly an Emmy. I'm not sure about the Golden Globe, but they'd won an Emmy. And so there was this kind of thing happening in that FX-y place where it was like, what? Sure, are you sure?
Yeah.
It was I remember my reps at the time were like, you don't want to take this. I'm telling you don't want to take this. This is nobody knows this thing. They do reruns of movies. And then he won the Emmy, and the show, I think, won the Emmy as well. And then people went, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the best shows ever, have been on FX since then.
Then we also had, after that, we had Rescue Me. So it was the Shield, Nip Tuck, and then Rescue Me with Dennis Leary.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, no, spectacular show. And that was very specific. The guys who were running FX at that time were very specific about the model and the type of drama they wanted to create. And it was like a three-piece, basically, of these kind of completely flawed gentlemen who were going through these emotional and struggle journeys and whatever. And that was the guys, Ligurio and whoever else over at FX, who have been very particular about what they wanted to do. They wanted to brand it that way, because they thought that branding it that way would attach an audience, not just to the show, but to the network.
Well, I think that worked, right?
Oh, it worked. Oh, absolutely, it worked. I mean, I remember sitting at the Golden Globes, and all three of us were nominated, and all three shows were nominated. And so it just created this thing, certainly publicly and audience-wise, but also inside of the profession of this is
Respect, yeah.
This is something to take note of. And, Dennis Leary has been around for a long time, same with Chikwa, so there was this kind of great kind of wave of consciousness that came towards FX at that time.
Now, is that different? Was that, what's his name? John Landgraf, right? He was the one who did was he part of that too? Or was there like a change in guard, so to speak?
There was a change in guard because the overrider of FX is Fox. And Liguri headed off to Fox, and I think everybody kind of dissipated in everybody I think had come from HBO to a certain extent in this kind of HBO-y kind of world, and had come over to FX, and then the success of FX was just kind of too much to ignore at that point in time, and something had happened at the top of Fox, and those guys kind of moved over to Fox, and then John came in to take over the reins at FX.
Okay, because I guess at that point is when like the Americans came in, and then Fargo. I guess that was all like the second.
But there's also that Glenn Close show. What was the Glenn Close?
Damages.
Damages, which was one of the first ones that he kicked off, and then the Americans, which is another fantastic show. Also, what's the what was that? Sons of Anarchy. Just list.
Yeah, such good shows. These are like high quality, some of the best shows that have been on, honestly. And all on FX, which of course your agents and everybody else warned you, hey, this is a big mistake.
Don't do that. Don't go there.
So you can't listen to your agents, I guess. Is that kind of how it is? Never, right?
I hope they don't hear that, of course. I know I love them.
So what about the business? Like, what are some of the things that you've learned about the entertainment business? Like, because you went through different phases, I guess, right? Big time phases. And now you're a network, and then you were at that time then, and then you had your break. You almost got your cattle farm. So like looking back, is that milk you're drinking?
Almond milk.
Oh, almond milk. Very interesting. So you just drink it plain, huh?
Oh yeah, but this is like a coconut almond milk thing.
Right.
So, it's coconutty and tastes pretty good.
Looks good.
Don't have any of the lactose issues.
Gotcha. So, sorry for the interruption.
No. I'm glad you picked it up.
It's interesting. That's part of the thing that makes these like Zoom interviews or these Zoom things so interesting to watch.
A little bit more kind of at homey, casual, kind of like, yeah, I know. I was surprised my dog wasn't going to, I had to shut the door because my dog kept, every time I came down to come and start the session with you, my dog just kept on coming in. I'm like,
yeah.
No.
Me too. I had to kick my dog out right before. I'm like, you're out right now. I thought she was going to start whining because we have like sliding glass or like French doors here. I thought she'd start whining, but sometimes I guess you see her off there on the rug just sleeping, but not this time.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's all good. It's all part of it. So so lessons from Hollywood. So like if you step back, like what are the things that you've learned? What are some of the things that you get now that maybe you didn't get before?
Where do I start? Oh my God.
Anywhere.
I mean, you start pretty naive in this business because you start from a creative platform and you go, okay, well, I mean, look, I'm sure there's kids that came in their 20s and were already kind of into the business side of things. In fact, I met some, so I know that exists. But for me, I was a kid from Sydney who didn't even know what acting was. I mean, I literally didn't understand what it was. Like I watched movies and stuff, but I didn't know that they went and shot them, or you know what I mean? Like I was a rugby player and a rower and an Army cadet guy, and I worked on the farm, and you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't kind of part of my psyche.
Yeah.
So I was just ridiculously naive. But I came into it very kind of creative. I really wanted to be a really good actor. And so it was all about craft, and it was all about learning, and it was all about, I did class after class after, and just kind of, and that was the kind of thing that fed it. Like it's almost like going to college in a way. And you feed, the material feeds you, and it feeds itself, and you grow and you learn and you do all of these kind of things. And then all of a sudden a job comes along and you're like, this is what I'm doing it for, is to work. And then you start working, and it very quickly turns into the fact that it's work, and So you have to be on time. I'm also very kind of, I don't know. I like working, and I like being professional, and I like being dedicated and having a discipline and all of those kind of things. Like those things really feed my system, and I had to kind of fit the creative of that into the work of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, right.
Which are really different things. You know what I mean? I mean, they might sound similar, but they're not, because you're dealing with a schedule. You're dealing with people telling you where to go and what to do all the time. You're dealing with cameras in front of your face. You're dealing with actors who are not, we're not mucking around on stage over there with, the teacher critiquing you or whatever else. This is legitimate. People have legitimate thoughts and ideas of what they want to project and who they want to be and what they want to do. And they're all individual. They're not conglomerate. They're separate. You have to work with directors and find your way with that kind of thing, showrunners and writers and all of that kind of stuff. So, the learning curve is just non-stop. And I mean, I've made some mistakes, and I've gone down paths that I went, what was that? And, and I've...
Like what?
I've tripped and I've fumbled and I've gotten back up again, and I try to, Nip Tuck is a great example of just immersing myself so fully in a character, right? And you can immerse yourself that fully in a character if you want to, sure. But for 8 years, it's like, you just don't know the difference at some point in time.
Oh, so what do you mean? You kind of take the character home with you?
Well, you take him everywhere. You don't, it's like that guy, he was hard to let go of, he was, I don't know if you ever saw the show, but he was just he was like a force, you know what I mean? Like he was an obnoxious kind of, but then at the same time charismatic, and at the same time caring, and at the same time just bombastic, and just like, that guy was out there, man. And it was hard to leave him behind. And because you also didn't have the time to leave him behind, because you start work at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Monday morning, and you finish it Saturday morning at 6 a.m. because that's you go later and later every day because call times get pushed and whatever else.
Right.
And so, the only time you get to really be on your own is when you're sleeping.
That's tough. Yeah. Especially with somebody because that is such a strong personality to have to stick with so often. I would think it would be complicated to stay to be affected by that all the time.
And also just very kind of difficult energetically, right? Because every scene, I always used to say that, and pardon me for this, but this was what I would say, but he led with his groin. He led with his, do you know what I mean? Like He was a guy who just, everything was about sexuality, and everything was about this kind of machismo, bravado kind of thing that he had. And he carried it very well, and he was very good at it. But you got to switch into that if you're not that. That's not the way that's not how I carry myself. And so to be in that, like 90% of your week turns into 90% of your month, turns into 90% of the year. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's like disturbing. How did you do it? How did you deal with it?
I don't know. I don't know if I did. That's why I needed a break.
Yeah, you needed to shake it, I guess, at that point. That was probably a big decision.
That's why it took a long time.
Yeah.
Like I needed a month off. It was like, I need a year. I need to literally just go. And it took me a long time to kind of come back to earth, so to speak. It really did. It was a struggle. And I thank God I had, my daughter and my wife, and I could inject time into that, so that, the battles that were going on in the system were kind of, were being kept at bay to a certain extent, or maybe massaged a little bit to a certain extent, because you had, I had a beautiful little girl to raise, and I had a beautiful wife to take care of, and all of these other things. But it was a tough journey.
So did your wife notice things too? Like, did she notice you kind of struggling with shaking off the character?
you could not have not noticed.
Oh.
There was absolutely no way you could not. I mean, everybody noticed. My friends, my family, my wife, who I'm closest to, and my daughter as well. And so, yeah, they all noticed. And so, which interestingly, just in discussion of what we were talking about before in regards to coming back into the business, I was very particular that I couldn't allow that to happen.
Right,
That. You know, I love playing characters, and Jess is a great character to play. Jess is the character from Most Wanted. But I wanted to be able to switch in and out.
Yeah.
And so I very kind of specifically created a character that I could switch in and out of like that.
Yeah, because that seems like, and again, another reason why, as great as FX is and these shows are, the network show and the character like Jess, for you for right now, seem like a much better option.
And it's just a kind of cruisier thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, if you take Nip Tuck as an example, you're like this.
Yeah. And
then, you know, Jess is kind of he's a pretty even keel, you know. Although I do like to invest in the emotion of each episode, and that starts with we start every episode with a scene with him and Tally, his daughter. And I like to carry the emotion of that through the episode. And I've been trying to figure out I try to figure out each episode how to make that specific so that you can, as whether you're conscious of it or not as a viewer, you're kind of understanding his investment based on the choices that I make in particular scenes. So for example, I'll do because you're working 16 hours a day, right? And so you go, if you put 100% into absolutely every second, that's getting back into Nip Tuck world. You know what I mean? That's getting right. So you have to kind of be able to sit with it a little bit and let the camera do the work and let you kind of just be present. And then you have to pick your moments where you go, this is where we need to see that investment. This is where we need to see that emotion. This is where we need to see that characterization, or whatever that might be. And so you kind of pick your moments, and you pick probably, and I probably overpicked because I love going there, to be honest. I just know that the coming out is not that easy, and the repercussions can be difficult. So it's still an ongoing thing, you know?
Yeah. You're going to find a balance. It's a process. It's a process, you know, not a destination. So
that's a life thing, isn't it?
Life
is a great journey, right? If you're already at the end and you know all about it, then what's the point?
Point?
So everything is about, you know, as we're going through this pandemic, what are we learning? What are we getting out of it? What are we gaining, hopefully? What are we, you know, what's the consciousness, the knowledge, the understanding, all of these kind of things. And that kind of is a part of the process of being an actor.
Yeah. So, all right. So you said, where do I start for a lesson in Hollywood? And I think you started with a pretty good one. So what about lessons in
I don't even know if I answered that for you properly. Did I answer that?
It's a process. The question is,
in Hollywood is, you know, and then you're gonna, it's a business. It's a hefty business. I mean, we're not mucking around. They're not mucking around. The guys who pay the bills, you know, the guys who pay for production, the guys who run the agencies, the guys who run studios, this is a full-fledged business, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess as a fledgling actor, I came into it a bit more like, well, isn't everybody just having fun? You know, we all just kind of meant to. There's an element of that I like, and you try to kind of still have, you know what I mean? But you know, the business side is one that you have to be very conscious of. And I mean, now I kind of love that side of it too.
Oh, you do?
I mean? Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, even in my time off, I actually spent some time trying to develop things and do all that kind of stuff as well, because I had to do something a little bit kind of whatever. So I had some people approach me and said, are you interested in developing something for a while? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, cut a long story short, it was fascinating. It was just fascinating. I mean,
so like as a producer, like to actually produce something new, what are you thinking? Well, give me some details.
Well, it was just, it was just an amazing process because we had a book that some people who were high-end producers and whatever else had come to me and said, we think this would be a great character for you. Are you interested in it? So I read the book. And this happened a few times. I also had a documentary and a couple of other things, but this is kind of the strongest one because it went the furthest. And it was just fantastic going, kind of, because I'd never been involved in the process of developing something into a script. So you got to find the writer. So we had to audition all these writers, and we were auditioning these great writers. And I'm like sitting in the room going, what? These
Wait,
guys.
how do you audition a writer? How does that happen?
So that is, you get I'm not the one who sent them that stuff, but I'm assuming you would send them the book and you'd say, this is the book, take a read. Let us know if you're interested in converting that into a script. They kind of called back at some point in time and said, I read it and I think it's pretty interesting and I'd be interested in coming in and pitching to you guys. And so what they do is they come in and pitch.
So they pitch the story as, okay.
Basically, they pitch their interpretation.
Uh-huh.
Right? And, so you got all these great writers coming in and every one I was like, oh, that's the one. That that's the right guy. That's the. It was just so cool to kind of be on that side of it and just listen to these great minds kind of create this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that went to the network and everything. And it was between us and another show. And as a lot of things do in Hollywood, it's such a funny business because. I remember getting a call and they said, well, they're going to greenlight this show. And I was like, oh, this is just fantastic. And then within like 2 weeks, the head of that studio had gone and somebody else had come in. And so then our show got put on a, 1 out of 2 kind of thing in the other show kind of.
Oh, that stinks. What's the other show? What got it?
I'm not telling you.
Well, are you going to reshop this one somewhere else?
No, I think once you kind of go through that, I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, you hear all these fantastic stories about things. I went to the premiere of The Irishman, and I was listening to those guys talk about it, Marty Scorsese and Robert De Niro and whatever else, and I think it was like 30 years. They were
nobody would finance it, right? Nobody would buy it until Netflix.
Yeah. So you never know.
Yeah. And I think there are other shows too that have aired and then been dropped and then completely different places pick them up afterwards. So I think there is like life after cancellation or non-pickup or whatever you would call it.
Yeah. I know that is interesting. I mean, I certainly spent a lot of time on it and I really loved the subject matter. So yeah, maybe,
Yeah. What's the subject? Can you tell me the subject matter or no? Is that top secret?
I'm not meant to talk about it. I think I was told at some point in time I'm not meant to talk about it. But it's about the kind of machinations of the kind of pinnacle of the business world. Like what really happens when you're at that top level trading amongst, billionaires and dealing with those guys at that level. And it was a very kind of intimate portrayal or understanding of what it's like to be in that existence.
Okay. So what industry did you say? Is this entertainment or in a different industry?
Finance?
No,
finance.
Finance.
The business world. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm feeling like billions or something, like sort of.
Very, very similar to billions.
Okay.
A little bit different in regards to it was a more it was a single character driven piece, and it was a very kind of intimate kind of journey, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I like an intimate journey. I say you keep going with this. Plus Billions is a big hit. A lot of people love it. So that's good. But I think
actually Billions, now that you're I think Billions is one of the reasons it didn't get
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
I remember having a discussion. They said, everyone's worried now because this Billion show is out and it's going really solid, pretty similar. And I'm like, oh, great.
Oh, shoot. All right. Maybe the timing wasn't right there. Maybe another time.
Exactly. I thought the shows were very different, but the similar premise, but very different because Billions, I watched it and a great show, but very different to what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I like a show that really hones in on like the character, one person's experience. I mean, it's great to have ensemble casts too, but it seems like it would be a twist. So it would be a little different from Billions. So what do you watch? Do you watch
I would
TV
like
much?
to, at this point in time, because there's so many kind of dramas that are, multi-character, to be really kind of interesting at this point in time, in the business, to actually go take that single journey. You know what I mean? That could be kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, right. I can't think of anything right now that's very much focused on like a single journey. I can't think of anything. You're right. I think it's much more popular now, the others, so it would be refreshing. I can't think of
If
anything.
you remember years ago, I don't know, you're probably a lot younger than me, but
I don't think so.
a lot of stuff was single character.
Like what? What are you thinking of?
Well, all of those old TV shows of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, usually it was a kind of single-driven character, and then even a lot of films were single-driven characters, whereas now it's become multi-charactered journeys that you take.
Did you see that? Did you see Unorthodox? Have you watched that on Netflix?
No.
Single character. Oh, it's so good. It's a limited series, 4 episodes. I think it's maybe a few weeks old or something.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recommend it, but it follows this one girl who was married and she left. She basically flees her Hasidic Jewish community and flees to Berlin. Very interesting and very well done. But yeah, that was it was pretty much focused on her the whole time. Very interesting.
That sounds good. I'll check it out.
What do you watch? What are your shows? Do you have any?
What do I watch? You mean now?
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing has kind of created a thing where, it's a great time to be able to sit in front of the TV and do certain things. But I've kind of been backtracking a little bit. I hate to say it, but my daughter and I kind of decided to kind of go back in time a little bit, and we watched, for example, the whole Harry Potter thing, which was like literally so much fun, because firstly the movies are brilliant. I mean, the story and everything, it's just absolutely fantastic. But to actually sit down with all of us, and we did it every night. Didn't happen every night in a row, simply because she had some studies to do and all that kind of stuff. But for a couple of weeks there, every night to a certain extent, we were sitting down and watching Harry Potter, and they're quite long actually. They're all kind of almost 3-hour movies, so you can separate them a little bit. But so we did that. In regards to TV, what do I watch? I watch one of my favorite shows is probably Miss Maisel. Aside from that, I'm not really watching much. We also went back and started watching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so we're kind of in the midst of that. I did watch the Tiger King thing. Did you watch that?
Yeah, that was one. It's funny because when you were talking about Harry Potter, that was what I thought of right away, because at the beginning of all this, like our whole family was sitting down and watching Tiger King together, which, I'm glad it's over. I don't need any more Tiger King in my life. But at the time, it was like nice that every night we'd be like, okay, it's time to watch Tiger King.
Yeah, you get a moment to sit down.
Yeah.
Another thing we've done too is we've had dinner together every night.
That's nice.
It's just been great, because we sit down together and we converse and we talk about whatever. And how was your day? Mine was great. I was in the back room. Where were you? I was up in my bedroom. Where were you?
Did you go anywhere interesting? Yes, the backyard.
The living room. I went to the yard for a little while, potted the dogs. Pretty good, actually.
It's funny. We sit down and we eat dinner at a dining room table with a big window, which, as you know, is this room, right? So there's a big window over here. And there are so many people that just walk now, right? Everybody's out walking, at least where I live. So dinner time is a popular time for them to go out and walk. And it's like, we can just sit and we'll be talking and be like, oh, wait, more people. Because normally we live in a neighborhood that's pretty quiet. So there's not a lot going on. So it's like, now all of a sudden there's that too. Like there's dinner together and there's watching people go by.
So you don't actually sit around the table. You all sit facing the window.
No, we're all around the table. However, right, we should probably sit like they do in France or something at a cafe. I love that.
On a cafe,
exactly. I love that.
Move the table up to the window and you can, hey, hi, there's people over.
Exactly. Create a bar, maybe we'll move outside when it gets even warmer.
Yeah.
I love that though in Paris, right? Like, or other, I guess there are other cities too where they just do that. They have a little table against the window of the restaurant, and then
Mhm.
the chairs are all facing out, so everybody can
Mhm.
just look out. It's like a totally different mentality than we
Mhm.
have here in the U.S. Interesting.
Well, my wife and I go to dinner a lot, and together, just the two of us. And we travel a lot because of work and all that kind of stuff and whatever else. But you know, as opposed to the sitting opposite each other, we always like to kind of get a table and sit so that we can look out. So that part of the experience is getting to, you know, kind of experience the people at the restaurant,
Yeah.
or the surrounding whatever. And I enjoy that.
Totally. And now more than ever, right? Like that would be just to be able to be immersed in people. It's like the small little things. But that's one of the things that I think about when I really miss the way things were. It's like, oh, I just miss sitting at a cafe with a friend or two and just being in the midst of a lot of people. I love that.
That's one of the things I miss most. And you know, it's funny because when I was shooting the show and we started shooting last August, end of July, August, I really kind of haven't been out much at all. I think I went out to dinner like 3 times or something during that period of time through to March.
Well, that's a long time, really?
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, weekends were just recovery, you know what I mean? So, so I didn't get the opportunity, and I'm in New York City,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
one of the best restauranted cities on the planet. And
And
I had,
it's right there for you. It's
oh,
right there, easy.
oh my God. And so I had this huge plan in my head. I'm like, okay, we're finishing. I think we're finishing beginning of April or whatever it is. And I'm going to rest for like a few days. And then we're going out and we're going to go and eat and we're going to sit at a bar. We're going to, you know what I mean? Because like the whole time I'm also driving around the city and I'm seeing all of these fantastic kind of environs. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a great little Italian place. I'm like, I would drive past and take a picture and go, well, I got to go back to that place. Or that's a cute kind of place where you want to sit and whatever
Yeah.
else.
I can't believe you missed all that. And then you had to finish. So when did you finish filming? I guess before all this, right?
Before what?
Before everything shut down?
We shut down in March, and we were in the middle of our second last episode.
Oh, okay.
Literally shut down in the middle of you know, shooting.
Yeah, shooting that exact episode in the middle of
Yeah.
it.
I mean, we were, you know, I got a call from the guys and they were like, we're going to shut down. I said, cool. I think it's a good idea based on everything I've been reading and everything I've been hearing. And, but I think we should, you know, shut down at the end of the scene because this is going to be a big kind of jolt for everybody and it's going to be difficult. So we shot this scene. I remember just sitting in the scene going, we're going to be shutting down in like an hour or 2 hours. And it was really, it was a difficult moment because it was just there was no kind of way to explain it. There was no kind of way to kind of really understand it. There was no, and it was finite. It was that's it. You know what I mean? Like even when you shut down, normally it's like days and you're kind of like, you know, people come in to clean out trailers.
Yeah.
I mean, doing all of these kind of things. And it was, we're shutting down now. And you can't come back. And that's it. And it was just a really odd way to do it. And, you know, there were a lot of tears and a lot of uncertainty and people feeling like they didn't know what happened. And so it was a kind of a funky evening. And I can't remember why we got onto that topic.
I don't know either, but so what?
Yes, we don't remember everything.
But are you in New York still? Or you're in California, right?
No. I'm down in the Carolinas.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, if you don't mind. I just have a little.
No worries. I can see you up the top there now.
I had a little trial going on there with somebody else popping in. So I'm doing with the Zoom. Basically, I'll give away my secrets to you. I'm just using the same link for everybody because it's easy. I just send the link. But if you want to separate meetings, then you really should have a separate link for each one that you only send to one person. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So what I just had going on with somebody else getting ready to come in, but he's a little early. So I had to shut him out.
See how it all works.
Yeah. But it's also weird, the whole
Have you ever
situation.
had that? My daughter was telling me that random people were dropping into classes and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. And that's what they said. The problem was also is that people would like Zoom bomb, right? They'd come
Yeah,
into
that's what
the
they call it, Zoom bomb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think they increase the security, but if I'm not setting it up that way, then I guess I'm not going to prevent that. So I'm learning from this.
Okay.
Next time it's going to be a separate thing.
We just had a Zoom bomber.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my first Zoom bomber. Oh,
A famous Zoom bomber too.
that was uncomfortable.
Yeah. So, what I was going to ask you though, so you were saying that you were in New York, but you said you're in North Carolina now? Oh, so is that where you live?
No. What happened was once we shut down, my wife and I decided to go into kind of a self-isolation thing, just based on the fact that we're in New York and all of that kind of stuff. And I'd say we're going to do that for 14 days just to make sure that we're both healthy and whatever. And about 10 days into it, we got a call from her school and they said, we're shutting down the next few days. And the kids have to go. And we said, well, can you wait another 4 days? And they said, no, it has to be done in the next 2 days. So my wife and I rented this huge van, because we had our 3 dogs. Everything was completely unexpected for everybody, but this was our experience. We had the 3 dogs, which was already a struggle, kind of getting the dogs from California. They've been living on a ranch ever since I've been alive. You know what I mean? And
wait, so you moved them to New York?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's changed.
Yeah. And so they, 3 dogs in an apartment in New York City is like, you certainly don't want things to go haywire. And they did every now and then. It went a little crazy. But anyway, so we had to pack up the 3 dogs. We had to pick up our daughter. We were, obviously anxious, the fact that, who knew what was happening? Like, were we going to be able to get supplies? Were we going to be able to get certain things, whatever? So we literally packed up as much stuff as we could into this, one of those kind of, what are they, the Mercedes Sprinter van or whatever those things.
Yeah,
right?
I know those things, yeah.
And we got them to take out the seats, all these like 16-seater, all the seats are gone and there's just dog beds and whatever else. And we just cruised down to the Carolinas, and here we've been. We thought we were going to be here for 2 weeks because at the time when we left, it was like a 2-week thing where everybody was going to figure things out, and we didn't realize that it would be extended the way that it has. And so we've been sitting in the same place for.
That's wild. So do you have a place? This is your place? Are you renting a place or what?
No, just renting a place.
Oh, that's so wild, so unexpected. Yeah. So you're just going to stay there until further notice, I guess, right?
I'm just here, man. I'm just hanging. I'm just
going with the flow.
The great thing about the Carolinas, I love the Carolinas anyway. So, and the great thing about this area is it's a very kind of temperate climate, and you got the air quality is great. There's a lot of trees everywhere. It's very kind of peaceful. So it's kind of a nice kind of contrast to kind of the craziness that's happening in the world right now.
Yeah, I see a boat behind you. Is it a beach? Are you near the Outer Banks or something?
Yeah. Have you been to the Outer Banks?
I have not, but it is a very popular place, and pretty much everybody I know has vacationed there. I hear big, huge houses, and your whole family and your biggest, all of your relatives can come in, friends and everybody else is what I've heard about it, but I've actually never been.
So my wife and I last year, around about this time, we spent Easter in West Virginia with my daughter, and then took her back to school. And then we thought, what are we kind of doing? And we, let's do something. We had been told about the Outer Banks many times, and we'd been like, I love parts of South Carolina and stuff, and I've been going down there for a long time. And we decided to head out to the Outer Banks. I can't tell you. It is absolutely spectacular.
Oh, really? It's beautiful, huh?
Oh, it's spectacular. I mean, we were a little early in the season, and we went to stay at a resort, and it was like hardly even open. You know what I mean? Like, like you couldn't do the things that you would normally do at a resort. Like there was a bar, the pool and stuff was closed. You couldn't get like things to land on the couch out by the pool or whatever you call it.
Right.
But it was perfect. And the beach was, beach goes for miles and miles and miles, and there was nobody else on it. And it was just this kind of wonderland of sea life. There were whales going past every day, and dolphins,
That's like a dream. Yeah.
Oh, it was
Perfect.
just unreal. It was like, and we got to drive around a few places there, and it's so pretty, and it's really interesting because it literally is the Outer Banks, So you've got the kind of end of the United States almost ends there. Then you got this swampy land in between, right, and the Sound, and then you've got the banks, which are literally banks that just kind of sit outside, and either side is beautiful, right? So you got the sunset on one side, and then you got the sunrise on the other side, and it's really special.
Well, that's not a bad place to end up, even though I know it wasn't your plan. It sounds like a good place. It sounds like where you should have gone at the end of every nip and tuck season.
It's yeah, exactly. Probably every weekend, actually.
Exactly. That could have been the answer if only you knew back then.
I had figured it out earlier.
So, all right. So this was fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I guess that episode you were working at that they cut in the middle, that's never going to air then, right?
Well, I think it depends on how we go back to work,
Right.
if we go back. The show hasn't been picked up yet, but I would suggest that a little over half of the episodes already shot. I don't see why we couldn't go back. I don't know.
Everyone's hair might be a little longer.
No, I know. You're a little growthier, a little kind of, a little different. I'm a year older. I don't know. But here's what I'll say. The script was great. And the director that we were working with at that point in time was just doing some real fun things with the camera. So we were like having the best time photographically, as well as performing. So I wouldn't mind going and finishing that one if we got the opportunity to.
So it hasn't been picked up. You don't know yet. I wonder when they're going to come out with these things now. I guess the whole timeline has changed, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's just so unpredictable, obviously. I mean, there's two things that I think of, and this is myself and very selfishly, not thinking of, networks or studios or anything else, but I don't know, I reading about everything that's happened in New York City, I'd like to kind of be able to get back there and kind of inject some business into the city and kind of get wheels of that city moving again. And then also, I think that people are, they're enjoying the entertainment. You know what I mean? So when you're on that, that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, that is a good thing. So you're gonna go back to New York then? Is that like your place now? Do you officially live there? Did you pack up the ranch completely, or what?
No. I still got the ranch back in California. It's just because we didn't want to travel flight wise. We just didn't think that was kind of the responsible thing to do. And then everything was kind of almost like on a 2 weekly basis. So we're like, oh, let's go. And they're like, no, we're not going anywhere.
All right.
It's too difficult to get across the country driving wise, right? The plan was to drive across the country at some point in time.
Oh, okay.
But then that has just kind of been put off by the fact that, these states are, in lockdown and it's everybody has their own kind of theory of that kind of thing. But I think I feel personally that if the more you respect it, the more we're respecting the virus and the process itself. And so I kind of just wanted to, let's just say, do what I was told, you know what I mean? And so that's what we're doing. We're waiting for a hopeful green light at some point in time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you too. I think that we've invested so much time already into what we're doing to stop it that as much as I want to go out too, I think going out too soon or like easing everything too soon, we're going to be right back. Like, what would it have been for? You know what I mean?
I mean, certainly if things went the other way, I just, and it's a conundrum, isn't it? I mean, there's part of me that just can't wait to back to some kind of normalcy. And as you say, I can't wait to go out to dinner. I just can't. I mean, who knows what's that going to be like? I'm going to sit there with a mask on. I got to. Oh yes, I'd like the pasta with the shrimp legs, and then put the mask back. I mean, who knows?
I know. Well, you know what? I saw actually there was an article in the New York Times recently, and it was a chef. I forget who it was. I want to say like David Chang or somebody, and he asked journalists who are in China to send pictures of restaurants that are now open and have this kind of setup going on where they still have social distancing and masks and things. So there were some pictures, and it was so weird. And it was like, I couldn't even imagine
I
eating in
know.
this place. So they had like cardboard, I guess, dividers between tables. And there was a Starbucks picture, I think, and you could only sit like 2 people. And then the rest had like almost like yellow tape, like you would see in FBI or something, like police tape. And you weren't allowed to go there. And then everybody else has the masks on and they're talking about disposable menus or what's it going to be. It's so weird. I cannot even imagine that. But I guess who knows? We didn't picture this either. So who
Really
knows?
bizarre. Really bizarre. Now,
Bizarre.
Chang, is he the guy from Momofuku, or is he?
I don't remember.
Does he do Ugly Delicious? Is
I
that his
don't
show?
know. I'm
Oh,
not. I
okay.
need to check my facts.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering because if it's who I'm thinking about, I think he's a brilliant chef. But anyway.
Yeah, he will definitely. He's definitely one of the top chefs and somebody whose restaurant you certainly should be eating at next time you have time in New York City. But yeah, it's so weird. It just, who knows? But I feel like maybe.
And that's the thing is, and when we were talking about at the beginning of like, how do you process? And that's why sometimes I get my phone on just reading news after news after news, and it's almost just like it's too much.
It's too much.
Because the reality is going to be its own thing anyway. It's you know what I mean? There's too many elements that are
unknown.
Depict
Yeah.
what we're going to do, and as you say, that are unknown. So
I mean, at a certain point, there's you want to stay informed, you want to still know what's going on, but then you start to, I think there's a point of, not a point of no return, but a point where it's like, okay, I've gotten what I need and I don't need to go any further into this news than I need to. And then it's not happening as fast as it used to anyway. And it is changing and nobody knows that much. So I don't know.
Isn't it wild to think, though, that all of the news across the world is all about this one thing?
Yeah. So wild. And like a couple of months ago, not that at all. So for it to happen so quickly and for it to be going on. But I think the weirdest thing, too, is that I know I've been home for so long and we'll go out on a Saturday and we'll go on a hike in the woods where there's really nobody, but we can still do that. And that's the big outing. But I haven't been driving around anywhere to even see, I've seen it in pictures and whatnot, but I haven't been in through New York City to see what's actually happening there, but it would be so weird. So it's what's happening, but at the same time, you're not witnessing it. So it's very surreal, I think.
Well, I had friends of mine who I stayed in contact with, obviously from New York, and when the whole thing was kicking off and everybody was departing, there was some moments where they were like, "This is kind of almost beautiful in a way." There was nobody on the streets, and it was kind of peaceful, and birds were coming in, and all of this kind of stuff. And now they're very much at the point where is everybody? It's the joke's over now. Let's all get back to kind of the way that things were. But it's I don't know.
I know. So weird. We'll have to regroup after this is over, and when things are, who knows how they'll be. We'll reconvene. We'll meet up again, but we'll do it in New York City in a cafe or something. We'll have a talk and we'll put it up there as an update.
I love that idea. I hope we're getting back to things to a certain extent soon because. Oh my God.
Me too. So let me ask you one final question. If you don't mind, I'd like to end with this. It's a 2-part question. So one is, who do people think you are? What's the image they have of you?
Oh my goodness, really? I have no idea. That's such an I should know, really, shouldn't I? I don't know. I certainly know that, for years, people have always said to me, why do you always play a bad guy? Right? Does that kind of lean into what you're asking? So I guess my kind of public perception to a certain extent at some point in time was a bad guy or something. I don't know.
Okay. So no, you were thinking something else. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, and I'm thinking none of this is concrete, that's for sure. Gosh, I really don't know. I mean, how do you know, I guess? I mean,
I've had different answers to that question. Some people have said, I really don't know, or it's really none of my business. Somebody or 1 or 2 people have probably said, but I've had plenty of people who say, who think that people look at them a certain way. For example, Michael Imperioli. He played Christopher on The Sopranos, Christopher Moltisanti. So I think a lot of people think he's one of the Sopranos. You know what I mean? So like, that's the image of him, is that he's like some guy from, New York or New Jersey, plucked out of the mall or something like that. And which couldn't be further from the truth. But I think the way that people talk to him makes him realize that that's what people think he is in real life.
And so, look, it really depends on characters you play then, doesn't it?
Maybe. Or maybe sometimes you may project something that is misinterpreted. Like people see something that's not really there, and it may not have anything to do with the character. But I think for actors, you're right. That's probably a good point, that a lot of it will have to do with roles.
Of it. And if you play a role on television,
more so,
it lasts for a long time, even more so. Whereas if you're playing roles in film, it's a 2-hour kind of thing that comes along every now and then, so to speak, right?
True.
Although even with a lot of these kind of Marvel-y type movies, everybody looks at people like they are that person, whatever else. So, but I do think it has a lot to do with I have kind of most of my fans, aside from the most wanted fans right now, are, from Nip Tuck and Fantastic Four and a show I did called Charmed, which is a show years ago. And they're all kind of definitively different, and they look at me completely different.
So when you get recognized, do you feel like you know what show somebody is thinking of you from?
Oh, I can tell as soon as they come up which show. Sometimes there's a little bit of a conflict between Fantastic Four and Charmed, because they're both kind of almost similar type characters. But I can tell those people straight away. And they have a very definitive idea and belief of who it is that I am.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I think that's true.
And they couldn't be more different. Like the guy that I played on Charm couldn't be more different than the guy I played on Nip Tuck. I mean, they're just totally.
Yeah. So the second part of the question is, who are you really?
Oh, now that one I certainly don't know the answer to.
I told you it wouldn't be like Entertainment Tonight.
Who am I really? Well, look, I'm still developing. I'm still evolving, but I've had many machinations, I think. I don't think I've just been one. It hasn't been one kind of straight path for me. But I think that now I've become somebody that really loves kind of time with my family, really enjoys the possibility of working hard. I still love that stuff. Who am I really? I don't know. I think maybe kind of more so than anything, I'm just somebody that really cares about what I do. And when I mean cares about what I do, that's in all facets of my life. I care about the people in my life a lot. I care about my family a lot. I care about humanity even. You could take it that far. And I think I've just become a pretty conscious guy who I've always been kind of positively driven. I just always have been that kind of guy. Even if things were tough, I was always going, we can do this, and we can, you know what I mean? We can get through it, and I'll hold your hand and all those kind of things. And I think that, as you get older and you start to maybe lose some of the preface of ideas of what you maybe perceive yourself to have been or thought you should have been as a youngster, kind of start to peel off a little bit. Maybe that kind of side of me has evolved more.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it is interesting because I think how people evolve, you're right. You're not necessarily the same person you were from the beginning. And life is, like we said before, it's a process. Mm-hmm. So who you are is also a process, really, right?
Well, you're still in the midst of it, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Let's hope rather than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea, right? I
mean,
it's kind of the journey. That's the great thing here. That's what's on offer.
I agree. Okay, right? Cool. So you did well with my, my deeper questions, I guess, digging into the psyche questions. I don't know if you were fully prepared for that, but it's interesting.
It's not prepared at all, not let alone fully.
Well, it should be, just not pre-thought or whatever, but
No, I
whatever.
love that. I love that.
To me, it's more like one of those conversations we would have if we were sitting in one of those cafes with the chairs facing out a little bit, but still talking. This is the kind of conversation I think we'd
Well,
have.
once again, it's about the journey.
That was Julian McMahon. Catch him in FBI Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock on CBS. Binge Nip Tuck on Hulu. Watch Julian and me now on youtube.com/reallyfamous. Are you not subscribed yet? You've got to subscribe. You'll like the content, I promise. youtube.com/reallyfamous. Oh, and remember we talked about Jeremy Sisto and Celia Ward from the Mothership FBI? I'll put links in the show notes so you can listen to those podcasts anytime you'd like. This is Really Famous. I'm Kara. Thanks for hanging out with me and Julian McMahon. I'll talk to you very soon.
Perfection. Thank you so much. So great. It's going to air soon. I'm going to put it on, probably we'll put it up on Monday or Tuesday, and I'll tag you on social media and all that good stuff. And
Okay, great. I just started Instagram a little while ago.
Oh, you just started?
Yeah. Well, so what happened was CBS, well, I've been asked to for years, last couple of years I've been working, and they're like, can you do social media? And I was very much against it. And so after a few of it, I thought, you know what, they keep coming and they keep pushing, and maybe it's something I should look at. And if I don't like it, or I don't kind of understand it, which I didn't understand it, by the way, but if I'm not enjoying it, I guess is the idea, then, I can always come off it. Right.
Right.
And so then I started, and I got my account, and then I had my daughter help me do a couple of things, and then Kellen, who's a co-star on the show, helped me do some posts, and Nathaniel and Keisha. And so I was getting help from all the kids on set and everybody. And then Yaya, who plays my daughter, she's like, "No, you don't do it like that. You do it like this." And she was so
perfect.
What to do.
They're going to teach you exactly that. That's what you need, right? Like, why figure it out on your own? They're going to tell you all the secrets.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then I had even my makeup artist. She's like a big, social media girl. She does a lot of stuff on that. And so I kind of dove into this social media thing. And I really enjoy it as a kind of, I only do Instagram right now, but it's kind of a great way to be able to communicate certain things with people. Like, it's really, I think you can, to a certain extent, you can use it how you want to, you know what I mean? But I've found it a really kind of cool way to be able to communicate kind of sentiments and things that I was feeling when or going through when I was shooting a particular scene, or something that meant something to me, or whatever that was.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And I think people they're interested in that and seeing like the other side of whatever they're watching on TV. Mm-hmm. I like Instagram too. So I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well. But for me, Instagram feels like a comfy place. Like, it's a happy place. It's a fun way to communicate with fans. And it's just kind of nice. So you can have some fun with it, I think. Try Instagram stories. Has anybody taught you how to do stories?
I kind of don't understand them yet. I still got to kind of work on the story thing. I mean, I see other people's stories, but I just don't know how to.
Stories are easy. Yeah. They're super easy, and then they disappear. So you don't have to feel like stressed that they have to look like a perfect professional picture or whatever. So you can just throw a picture up, and then there are all kinds of little stickers you can put on. Like, it's so easy. And like, it's just fun. I like stories. And I think a lot of people even like stories more than they like the regular posts.
Oh, okay.
Try that.
Because I see a lot of the guys, they post on stories that, in fact, some of them just do stories.
Yeah, exactly. That's what some people are doing now. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to do a story probably in a couple of days, and you're going to be in it, and I'm going to tag you in the story. And then you can, if you look at your messages, you'll see that you've been tagged, and then you can even just share that on your story. So
does that mean you hashtags me?
I'll tag with the @ symbol. So what I'll do is I'll put a picture, maybe I'll take a snapshot of like the computer like this, and I'll add it to my story. And then I'll add the hashtag, not hashtag, the like the @ symbol with what is it? Julian McMahon. Is that what your
Julian McMahon official is mine?
Okay. So that's what I'll tag. And then you'll see it. if you notice, but I know a lot of the things, I was like this too at the beginning. I didn't even know that I got messages. I didn't see it, but there's this little thing on the top right, and it'll show up.
Oh,
as
that
if,
little envelope or something.
yeah, like a paper airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you tap on that, you'll see messages, and then it would show up there that, oh, Kara Mayer Robinson tagged you in her story. Do you want to add it to yours? And you just press tap, and then boom, you have part that on your story too. Stories are easy. They're fun. I think you should get into them.
Okay. I still might need some help from my daughter, but you know, interestingly, and I know you got to crack on, but my daughter got me to sign into TikTok last night. It's funny. Oh my God. There are some funny things there. I mean, people post some hysterical. I couldn't stop. You know, you just go like this and you go to somebody else's funny thing. You know what I mean? There's this guy who does this interpretation of Obama and Trump together. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Is it funny?
So funny. He does the voices of them absolutely perfectly. So like last night I was watching one that he did, which is Obama and Trump have a sleepover. You gotta check it out. It's so good. It's so funny. I mean, it's like, it's not crude or rude or political or any, you know, it's not any, it's just
amusing.
Yeah, it's just funny and it's really cute. And it's, the way the voices this guy does is great.
I will check it out. What, do you remember his name? No, you remember
that?
No,
I didn't even know what I was doing, you know.
Oh, okay, right. I'll try to find it. What is this? Running out of time?
This meeting has been upgraded by the host.
Well, that's so interesting. I'm getting a message that it's just about the 40-minute limit. Because I think normally you have a 40-minute limit from Zoom if you have more than 2 people on the. Oh, you know why? I bet it's because Chris popped into the frame at one point.
He's hanging on it. He's hanging out there. And you're like, just chatting away. And Chris is, and now he's charging it.
Too funny.
Hey there, I'm Julian McMahon, and I just spent the last probably hour and a half with Kara. This is the second time we've gotten together, and I have to say, every time we get together, it's a special time. And I really appreciate her, and I really appreciate spending time with her. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi friends, it's Kara and welcome to the 2022 season premiere of Really Famous. It's officially my 5th season. Very exciting. Super appreciative you're here with me, and I'm happy to kick off the new season with Julian McMahon, the star of the CBS Dick Wolf series FBI Most Wanted, who's also well known for his role in the Ryan Murphy series Nip Tuck and the show Charmed. So Julian and I first met in 2020, as you'll hear us talk about. Later, we wanted to have another conversation, do another show together, but it took forever to get it on the books. If you've ever wondered how the booking process goes, what it's like, how long it takes, I will give you a little glimpse into it right now. So most of the time, it involves a lot of back and forth. There are a lot of emails with reps, publicists, managers, assistants, coordinating times that work for everybody, making sure my studio or taping venue is free and available, etc., etc. Occasionally, it's super fast. A publicist reaches out to me to pitch a client, or I reach out to invite someone on the show. Our schedules align perfectly, and boom, a week or 2 later, we're taping. Typically, when I'm talking directly to someone who I already know to invite them on the show, like Julian, for example, or Steve Zahn, or Debbie Mazar, Michael Imperioli, Tim Daly, it's easy and it's smooth. We text or email each other, we set it up, and bam, we're up and running. It's my favorite way to go. I love that. Now, with Julian, he is so busy taping FBI Most Wanted that it's nearly impossible to find an hour to catch up. Even when we get a date on the books, it disappears at the last minute because he's called to set. So I'm going to say that we've had at least 5 or 6 dates where we thought we were going to tape and ended up not taping. But after literally a full year of back and forth, we finally did it. So today we kick things off talking about the mid-season finale of FBI Most Wanted. If you missed it, you can still catch it now on CBS. It's quite an episode, and it was taped at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey. Julian shares some behind-the-scenes insights on the show, and then we get into a conversation about humanity, people, life, and you'll probably notice that we're pretty relaxed with one another, which is nice. You can listen to our first talk, by the way, by clicking in the link in today's show notes. I also put links to the YouTube versions of both of our talks, so you can watch us if you so desire. If you're an FBI fan, you can also tune into my fascinating and very surprising talk with Jeremy Sisto, who's in the flagship series FBI, and who you may also remember from 6 Feet Under and Suburgatory. That talk was truly a therapy session. You will see what I mean. I highly recommend it. Today's show is sponsored by the really famous Amazon shop, where you'll not only find all sorts of fun TV and movie paraphernalia and juicy celebrity memoirs and my top product picks, but you can also shop for anything and everything that you regularly buy on Amazon, while simultaneously supporting Really Famous. Yes, every time you go to Amazon through my link, which is amazon.com/shop/reallyfamous, Amazon gives us a small advertising fee. Buy anything, anytime, simply make sure you go to Amazon through my link to support the show. And for that, I thank you. And now, my friends, the season premiere with Julian McMahon.
I'll put my phone on airplane, right?
Oh, an airplane, yeah. I thought you said AirPlay, which is something different. I just got a new car and I have Apple CarPlay, right? So like when you get in the car, so everything, all your phone things basically automatically go onto your car screen. Do you have that?
Oh, wow. No, how is that? Is that good?
It's good, and it's also super annoying because sometimes I feel like I can't operate it. Like it has a mind of its own. So it's good if I'm plugging in directions to go somewhere. So let's say I'm going on Waze, and then as soon as I get in the car, it's like right on my screen. Waze is right there. It's telling me exactly what I need to do. But other times I feel like it has a mind of its own and I do not know how to control it. So I don't know, a little good and a little bad.
I feel like we're getting a little over-controlled by these things. I'm not sure about you, but I don't know. I mean, they're so useful at the same time. It's hard to deny it all, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Although I did tell my Alexa that I loved her the other day, and she sang me a song. Do you have an Alexa?
I do not. We have some in the house. I know my husband bought them at a certain point, but I don't use them.
If you just happen by and you're walking by and you want to say I love you to Alexa, say I love you to Alexa and see what her response is.
I will try that. That's the funniest thing. Did you hear about that? I remember hearing something about there was an Alexa on and there was a news story on somebody's TV. And on the news story, it was basically this girl said, "Order me this doll, Alexa," or something like that. And then like all these people who had the TV on during this news report, the Alexa started ordering this doll, and like from the TV segment.
Oh my gosh, you serious?
Yeah, so like this company sold all these dolls because of that one.
1,000 dolls because of this one.
Yeah, exactly. So last time, I don't know if you remember, I'm going to refresh your memory from last time we talked.
I remember very well.
Okay. Do you remember we got Zoom bombs? Do you remember that?
What's a Zoom bomb again?
I just remember this. So we're talking about technology. It's perfect. So this was early in the pandemic. So I think you were one of my first Zooms. Like I always do this in person. So you were one of my first Zooms. And then I didn't realize at the time that I shouldn't just give out the same number to everybody, the same meeting number.
That's right. I remember. Yeah.
So we're in the middle of talking and suddenly Christopher Knight, who played Peter Brady, is on our Zoom call.
And that was kind of right at the beginning. Like, I think that was like week 1 or 2 of the kind of whole shutdown in New York, and we had to move somewhere else. And this whole Zoom thing was just being figured out.
Exactly.
I mean, not even that. It was kind of almost even less than not being figured out yet.
Absolutely.
I pretty well. I thought we did very well.
I did too. We did great. Other than that, I mean, I think we were both in focus. We had our conversation going. And I think at that point, I was really just happy to be talking again.
Yeah. And it was also that period of time when, I don't know, it was kind of the whole thing was so kind of shocking and kind of
unexpected, and all of these things were happening. And I remember exactly where I was, and just kind of feeling a little kind of lost, and wanting to, because we got shut down in the middle of production, and kind of wanting to, keep producing television I don't know. It felt a little bit like the world was ending, and I felt like I wanted to go back and make more television. You know what I mean? It was kind of, and then it was interesting because I think you and I talked about our first or second week, when after we left New York, and we then spent 8 months on a road trip. And it was meant to be, it was like a 3 week, we were told it was going to be like this 3 week thing where, everything would be fine in 3 weeks and it'd go back to normal and whatever. And it was 8 months later, we were back in New York and up and running again.
That's crazy. So you're in New York now though, right? You're filming. Yeah. Okay. You have major hours on this show. Like you're always working. Am I right?
Oh, always. Always.
Like, what are we talking about?
Well, depending, I'm trying to bring them down a little bit. The pandemic actually helped a little bit. The first season was, 15, 16 hours a day minimum. And then second season, we went to a 10-hour max on set. So that goes to, probably a 14-hour day for me kind of thing. And then we're kind of about that now, depending. Sometimes we've got a little bit more. But like today, I try to get moments off. I had a bunch of doctor's appointments today, so I had an excuse to get the day off. It's hard to, the thing is, I love working too. So it's really about trying to find that balance of, that kind of consciousness of making sure that you're keeping yourself healthy. I like to stay fit. I mean, the fitter I feel, the better I feel. It's just kind of figuring it out, and it's always a gamble. You know what I mean? I mean, the episode that we have next Tuesday, for example, the Christmas episode, that one was really difficult. We shot in a mall for like almost 2 weeks. And it was we had to start super, super early. So I was up at like 2, and, because we need to finish shooting inside the mall by 11 or 10:30 or whatever it was. Because people were coming to the mall, so then you kind of lose your rhythm of like, when do you work out? Well, I don't work out at 1:30 in the morning because, you know what I mean? So you got to kind of figure that out. Then you get home, you're so kind of fried that you're like, I don't want to. Then you lose the rhythm of working out. You know what I mean? So then you got to bring that back in. So, I've kind of worked out that on set, I work out. So I got those bands, which actually Kellen showed me years ago. And I was like, I don't do bands. I do go to the gym. And so obviously, guy was a lot further ahead in the evolution of that than I was. But
so we're talking about resistance bands.
Yeah, those but they're really good. Like they actually get like a really good workout. And then I try to, go for a run 3 times a week, bike 3 times a week. And then yoga, I try to do that every day. So it's just like, I get up like an hour and a half before I go to work. So if I get picked up at 5:30, I'm up at like 3:30. And then I do my yoga. And then if I get the chance to do the bike, I'll do that. And then Thanksgiving will come in the mix. And the next thing you're cooking. And I did not stop cooking the whole Thanksgiving. I don't know about you. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. I'm more of a baker than a cook. But yes, so my husband does more of that stuff. I do more of the dessert stuff. But yeah.
Okay. Oh man, you watch it? Did we talk about that? The Great British Bake Off?
I don't think so. Are you into that?
I'm upset. Oh yeah. I mean,
are you obsessed? Not? So I haven't watched it in maybe 2 years, but I was at a certain point. I loved everything about it. I love Mary Berry, but she's not on anymore, is she?
No, but the girl Prue, the lady Prue, who's on it now, she's fantastic. I mean, it's still got Paul Hollywood, and it still runs to the same rhythm. You know what I mean? And a lot of it's about the guests that they have on, and the kind of competitive part of it, and the camaraderie between them, and that kind of stuff. But then you get some. This last season was just some of the bacon. If you're a baker, some of the bacon was extraordinary.
I just love how nice of a show it is. Like, it feels so good. It's not like that negative drama.
Oh yeah. I was talking to my wife about that. I'm like, I think I got to rewatch the series because it just makes me feel so like good about people or the world or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, It's not nasty. It's conniving. It's not, ridiculously competitive that we just, spite each other in some kind of way. It's just people being people and doing what they do. And it's it's like this character driven piece, and it's so funny because I always start to see something like, oh, that guy. Oh. And then, 2-3 episodes, I'm like, I love that guy.
That's because you get to know the real person, I guess, right? They grow on you.
It's like, it's like proper television. I mean, it is, I know it is, but it just kind of feels weird when you're talking about a baking show. But
another show that's good, another show that's redeeming is, have you seen Stanley Tucci's show, the CNN show? I think it's on HBO Max now, Searching for Italy, where he goes around to different regions.
No, but I saw like a short on it or whatever, the advertising thing or whatever. And okay, and that's good?
It is. So, of course, you have Italy and you have that amazing food, and that's all good. And Stanley Tucci is fun, too. But it's like he meets with all these Italians, all these locals, and it's just, they're all so great. And you just want to hang out with all of them. So it redeems sort of your idea of society again. Like, yes, everything is good. All can be good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. I'll check it out.
All right. So what else are you watching these days?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I haven't actually been watching much television at all. I just started rerunning, and this is it's so funny that you bring that up, actually, because I've been a little bit exhausted, and I was like, okay, I got to find something that just makes me feel good, as you're saying, exactly as you're saying, right? Just makes me feel I don't even need really good comedy. I don't need really good, laugh out loud stuff. It's not that. I just need something that makes me feel warm and good and whatever. So I started rewatching Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey. Okay.
Yeah, did you ever watch the show?
Yeah, I did. I loved it.
That's another one that's just kind of warms the heart. It's a lot of those kind of British shows, I guess. But yeah, I watched it the first time around and I loved it. It's amazing how much I'd forgotten from when I finished watching it. Was probably 5 years ago, whatever. And now I'm rewatching it, and completely obsessed once again. So and I said no more than one episode a day. Right, I gave myself a limit. I'm like, the other day I was watching, I'm like, just one more. I could do one more. I could do 2. I know that'd be fine if I did 2. I'm like, no.
I love that. That's perfect. When you find a show like that, it's like it's gold. And then when it ends, It's like, oh, this is the worst. Now what am I going to watch?
But I'm not really watching anything else.
I have some to recommend, I guess. Well, they're not that light and fluffy, though. Like, I've been watching a lot more comedies lately. I do feel like I'm at the point in, like, what I think it has something to do with the pandemic, probably, where I don't want all the heavy things necessarily. So I've been watching a lot of lighter shows. The Other Two, have you seen that? That's also HBO Max with Molly Shannon. That's very funny. Wait, there's something else that I love, and I'm totally blanking out on it.
There's actually... I started watching something and then I kind of forgot about it. You just reminded me of it. It was really cute. It was one of the girls from Saturday Night Live, and I can't remember the actor, but it's like they're about to get a divorce or something.
Is that Divorce?
No. That's no, I know that one. That's Sarah Jessica Parker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. This because you said Molly Shannon. It's not Molly Shannon, but it is. And it's like they go back and they do all this musical, and they're like back in the 50s, and they're singing like this. No, ridiculous.
I don't know what I feel like I would know. Like when I think of these musical ones, I'm thinking of, the one that everybody watches on Amazon, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. There's that one.
Oh, I love that show. Yeah, great show.
So let's talk about this episode of FBI. All right, it's major. I turned it on this morning. I watched it. So it took you 2 weeks to do it?
Just the mall part.
Just the mall part.
Yeah.
So, okay, so how does that work? First of all, what's the mall? Where was it? They said it was Brooklyn, but where actually was it?
It was in New Jersey. It's called America's Mall.
America's Mall?
And, America's Mall.
Is that that
New
big,
Jersey.
gigantic mall?
Ginormous. It's got a ski slope. It's got ice rink. It's got, it's spectacular. It's the most, if the story is true, and this is what I was told by the gentleman who kind of was running the joint when we were there, it opened literally just before the pandemic. Like that
it's
Christmas.
True.
Right. Is that true?
Yeah.
And the scale is, I've never seen anything like it. I'm sure there's something like it in Texas or something, but I've never seen anything like it. And it's still probably at, I don't know, 50-60% capacity in regards to, all of the shops being taken up and all that stuff. So, I mean, it just kind of was one of those bad timing things, but it's an amazing place. I probably will never go back there again, just simply because I spent so much time there at around about 4 o'clock in the morning that I'm not sure I'm ever going to fall again.
Well, I have to tell you also, so when I started watching it, it did actually freak me out right away because I was in a similar, but not anywhere near this situation at one point at a mall. So I was in, I don't know if you even heard about this on the news. I feel like it was March 2019, and I was in LA. It was at the Century City Mall. So I'm meeting a friend for lunch, and I had done interviews for the whole week. I go out to LA for about a week at a time, then I come back here. So I was wrapping up all my interviews, meeting my friend at the Century City Mall at a restaurant that's anchoring the mall, but it's like outside the entrance. So I'm sitting outside the restaurant entrance, and she texts me and she said, "There's a shooter in the mall." And so suddenly I saw people just running, like exactly like in this episode. There were just people running outside, and then I don't even know what to say except that I will never forget it. We all basically just ran as far away from the mall as we could. Nobody was hurt, luckily, in the end, but the whole mall was on lockdown, and there were just helicopters, police officers everywhere. And there was somebody with a gun. And it was really scary. So as soon as I saw this episode, I was like, it really felt realistic to me. Like, this is exactly what it felt like. When you were ready to do it, did you have to kind of get into some kind of mental armor or something like that?
Well, firstly, that's an intense experience that you had. I remember that. I absolutely remember that. I do think, interestingly, I was just thinking about the response to that. It was pretty spectacular, I thought. You're at Century City Mall, that Beverly Hills Police Department is really good. The SWAT, I think it was really kind of in regards to how those things shake down, which is not always positive. And I'm not saying that this was positive, but certainly in regards to what could have happened, I think that they handled that quite well.
I agree. It was very quick, and I have never seen so many police cars, ambulances, helicopters, the works, like instantly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, ours was like, I didn't have that experience that you had. And that would have troubled me if I had have, I think. So I'm hoping that you're okay after watching the episode.
Oh, yeah. But I really felt like it was well done. It was not traumatic for me, but I appreciate your concern. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it was about, trying to, we hear so much about those things, and you see them, and it was just basically about trying to create the reality of what that would feel like, that kind of chaos. And then without giving too much away as well, the whole thing starts off with, me and my family shopping for Christmas gifts in the mall. So you can only imagine, if you're the audience, and not you, because I know what happens then. But it really, and look, I keep saying it about this show, and I keep trying to find it no matter what's going on, and that is that the piece is driven with this kind of emotional core attached to it. And I think that we did that from day one, and I've tried to maintain that as often as possible. And that is this kind of connection to family, to people that you care for. In this particular show and these kind of circumstances, it envelops everybody, because it's it's my family, Roxy, who plays Barnes' family, and then my team, and so it's really kind of all the people that you care about are either in jeopardy or really concerned for your well-being. And so it creates this environment of because I just saw it too. I saw it in a cut a while ago, but I just saw the final cut. And it creates this kind of, it's a deeper, it's an emotional journey from the moment you start, because you're dealing with people you love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's set up really quickly, and then the next thing you know, we're in and we're going, and it goes, and it's a fast-paced piece. It moves really nicely. It moves really quickly. It's chaotic, and then in the midst of all of that kind of drama and chaos and kind of ill will is this beautiful kind of family story,
Yeah.
And I love it, like even that scene where they land on the Tally and Sarah caught with that guy, and I won't explain it too much because I don't want to give away too much, but it's emotional, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that our audience is pretty much kind of tapped into the emotional core of our show, so they care about the characters, and so it gets you like that, right?
That's the trick, I think, with the show, right? Because you have all the storylines and the action and all of that, but the real thing that probably keeps people glued to it week after week, I would think, better than I do, is the family stories.
Well, I think you probably know just as well as I do, but yeah, that's it, right? It's the connection to your heart or your spirit or your mind or something that you invest in, right? I think we invest in all of these characters, and they're all completely invested in this piece. Now, if I get dark, just so you know, the sun's setting over here. Sorry, I don't know where I am right now. So.
I know, I see, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The same thing happened the other day for me. So I was interviewing. It was Apollo Ono. Do you remember him? He was a speed skater in the Olympics.
Of course, yes.
So I'm interviewing him a couple of days ago. The same thing happened. He became like a white, bright white.
I got one of these beautiful light things or whatever this is from work. So if I need to turn that on, you'd let me know, and I'll.
Okay, what is it? What do you have? Like a ring light, or is it an LED or something?
Yeah, it's like a ring on a stand.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll keep an eye out.
I mean, it's gonna look horrible for a second.
Yeah, but you know what? It'll adjust. It'll look fine after, but don't use it yet. You know why? Because I don't want it to run. Is it plugged in or is it battery?
No, it's plugged. It's
plugged. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you know what? Maybe you should turn it on. Turn it on. Let's see what happens. It'll probably adjust after a couple of seconds. So it might look weird at first. But, oh, wait, now it's off. Okay, now hold on. Oh, you're trying the different settings?
No, I'm just trying to turn it on because I think if I go, it goes hotter, right? Yeah, it goes really.
That's good.
So that's low.
That's
and
good.
Then you change the color of the thing. So that's like a yellowy kind of thing, and then that's like a mixed, and that's white.
I think I like a little slightly yellower. Yeah.
That's mixed yellow and white?
Maybe mixed.
Yellow.
That's good too, actually, right there. Okay. I like that.
All right.
Let's keep that.
Is that okay? And then I won't disappear. I don't want to be just fading into the background.
Yeah, I think you're good, just like that. So we'll keep it like that. It's good to have those lights. You need to do it because I used to do the same thing. I would set myself up right in front of a window. So during the day, when the days weren't so short, I found that the window light was better than any. I've tried all the different lights because after COVID, I had to get the whole setup at home. So I tried that. And then I realized one day that the actual window, and I would turn off all the lights in my in the room, and it was perfect. But then the clock switched.
I know. Then it's getting dark at 3:30. I did exactly the same thing because after I saw you, we went. I went, like I said, I did an 8-month road trip. So, and I was going to places I never even thought I was going, or, you know what I mean? Like, it was like this unpredictable whatever. And so I'd arrive at all these places, never I'd go, I kept doing, because we were still trying to keep the show going and remain kind of just stay present in regards to the show. And so, we did all these promos and interviews and stuff. And I found everything was like, just get in front of that natural light that's coming through the window, and it looks good.
It's still everything. It's all about the natural light. I'm a believer in that. I know you can't do it in a studio, but I am a believer in natural light.
Oh, I am good.
Okay, so it took 2 weeks just to tape inside the mall.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about malls now?
Oh, I love them, man. Can't wait to go to my next mall. Want to hang out there again. No, it's so funny because I couldn't stop shopping and this is just so ridiculous. Okay. I don't know what happened. I mean, of course I know what happened, but I haven't shopped for, I don't know how long. Like, first of all, I don't do anything but work. So there's no point in me shopping. I have a closet full of clothes as big as this room, and I don't wear any of them. I just wear my stuff that I go to work in and whatever, right? So I do not need to shop. But you're sitting in a mall, right? And you're working in a mall, and it's just looking at you the whole time. And it's everything from clothing to shoes to Best Buy to, you know, and so I just kept shopping, chocolates. I went to Best Buy. I think I ordered 3 computers.
What?
I don't know. I don't even know what happened. And then I left, and I was so kind of exhausted and nauseated by the mall. I called them and said I can't come and pick them up. And they're like, well, we can deliver them. And I said, don't worry about it. I didn't want them anymore.
That is so funny. So you canceled the order completely?
Yes, I canceled the computers. Oh my God. I'm glad I did too, because my wife would have killed me. Yeah, no, it was really funny. It was really, I couldn't stop.
It just beckoned. So that's so funny.
Yeah.
But that's why malls are still happening, right? So for a reason, they know what they're doing. They're like, if we can get people in, we're going to sell things.
And by the way, I love that. You know what I mean? Like, when I moved over from Australia to California, the Beverly Center, the Beverly Center?
Yeah.
I mean, I was there every day, either going to the movies or shopping, with money I probably didn't even have. So, they certainly know what they're doing, but they also, I don't know, there's a sense of, we were talking about that kind of bake-off, British, Italian kind of feel-good thing about people. Yeah. And I don't know, there's something about malls that kind of makes you feel comfort that you can just kind of get everything you want. So
I get it. I'm not a mall person by nature, but it is interesting though too. So you haven't shopped in a long time. You have clothes everywhere. Are you a clothes person? Like, do you feel like I want to wear these things and go out places, or do you not care?
Oh no, I love it. I just don't have the time. I've been, so I grew up in a family that were very fashion conscious, right? And so my mom had all of her outfits tailored by really big designers. My dad got all of his suits tailored, shoes, everything, right? So I grew up in this world of fashion in a way, right? And then I started modeling when I was young, and that kind of brought me into that side of the business as well. And I started designing my own clothes at one point, and, doing all that kind of stuff as well. So, there's a big part of me that really enjoys that stuff creatively. And kind of, I think I have it in my system. You know what I mean? I don't think you can grow up the way that I did and not have it in your system. So, I did a show called Nip Tuck for, 8 years. And one of the great things about that character was his clothes. I mean, I got to, I designed a lot of my own suits there, and we tailored everything in specific ways. And, but I went home with a lot of those suits.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? I went with balls. Plus, I shop myself. Like I'm not cautious. You know what I mean? I'm not I don't back. I'm not like, I don't do it all the time, but when I go and I go hard, if that makes sense. And so I've definitely, my closets are full and don't.
Well, it's kind of a shame for them to sit there like that.
Oh,
It's a bummer.
No, I have some suits. I just found 4 suits that I got in Scotland 2 years ago. Right before the pandemic, 2019, I took the family over to, we went to England, London, and Northern England, and then Scotland. And there's a store in Scotland, which is just one of my favorite stores. It's a suit store. And I bought 4 suits, and then came back, the pandemic happened, and I just literally found them the other day, and there's 4 suits, and they got tags on them. They haven't kind of been cut properly, and so I love dressing up. You know what I mean? I kind of was thinking, should I dress up just to use my clothes? Should I dress up just to go to work? But I'm like, I don't know, 4:00 in the morning, it just doesn't feel the same.
No. But also, you're not going to be wearing them. They're going to be hung up.
I'll be in a car and nobody, you know what I mean? It's just, I'll be doing it just for myself. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but I can't quite get myself to understand the sense of it.
Yeah. I think that I hear what you're saying. I don't think you want to wear them there to get ruined and then not even be
That's
worn. You're going to have to put them away anyway. You have to wear whatever they have out for you.
No, and I started wearing a couple of things like random, like I was like, just wear that. And I was like, and they got really disappointed because it got kind of, destroyed somehow. I was like, oh, that's a bummer that I did that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're in New York right now. So I think when we last talked, you were technically bi-coastal, right? Like you have a place in California too? Or am I making this up?
No, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So interestingly, I just went back to the place in California for the first time since I left in 2019.
First time?
Yep. And so, because with the pandemic, we stayed on this coast. The thing about it was we thought we were going back to work all the time, right? So from July 4th, around about July 4th, we were going to go back, and then it kept getting pushed 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, whatever it was, and then by that time it's like, oh, we're just here. Let's just finish it out, and we'll drive back up. You know what I mean? At that point, we were kind of down in Florida or something, and but what a gift. I mean, I got to spend it with my wife, my daughter, and 3 dogs.
So they're all here with you in New York now?
Yeah.
Now, is your daughter in college? I think I remember you saying she was starting college. Is that right?
Yeah, she's in college. Although we lost one of the dogs, so we got two of the dogs, and very sad, a beautiful girl.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we've got 2 of the dogs left, but she had this. It was kind of funny because she did have this kind of extraordinary last year. Like all of these places that we went to were so kind of pro dogs, and we just and also just not being in the pandemic, you weren't kind of doing much except for hanging out at home, and so I walked the dog. You know what I mean?
I know. My dog started to get so used to getting walked all the time that she got in this habit of being like twice a day for these long walks. Like, hello, why aren't you walking me now? But it's like, okay, that was good for a while, but we can't continue that many long walks every day.
Yeah, so. And long ones too, right?
Yes.
Like, I'd be fine if I went for 2 hours. I was love it. So, and then they're like, I know when we came back, our dogs were so fit. And then after a couple of months, I'm like, I'm getting a little. Had to put them on a diet because they just weren't getting those. Like I did a minimum of 2-hour hikes per day.
All right. So tell me about going back to California. How did it feel?
It was wild because the house, we've had some people live in it and staying up, but not in kind of our section of the house. And it was like a time warp. It was like this, it was like my slippers were just sitting there, and all that stuff that you have, all your personal stuff by the side of the bed, whatever that is for everybody, your cup of water or your, whatever it is. It was all just sitting there, like, because when I left, it was July 2019, right? Yeah, July 2019. And we were for sure coming back in Thanksgiving. I was for sure about it. I'll be back. Everybody else, I'll be back. Don't even worry about it. I'll see you soon. Because I just thought that was going to happen. But then Thanksgiving came around. I was so exhausted. I was like, I got to sleep for 4 days. So that didn't happen. Then the London trip, and then the pandemic. And it just kept on. We were actually going to go this last summer. We did a road trip. Because now I'm obsessed with road trips, by the way.
Oh, you are?
Oh, completely. I'm also obsessed with America right
now. Oh, tell me about that. I'm interested.
Well, you just kind of always go somewhere else, right? Like you get on a plane and go to, I don't know, somewhere, Mexico or, and the forced kind of road trip that we had in 2020, I remember having discussions with, I don't even know Florida. I'm like, oh my God, Florida. I'm obsessed with Florida.
Like, you obsessed.
Are? Oh, absolutely obsessed.
Okay, I need to know more because I went to college in Florida, so I know Florida.
Where'd you go?
I went to the University of Florida. It's in Gainesville.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Big college, right? Large.
Yeah, big college, big, that's like the school, or, I'm a graduate. So of course I'm going to be like, that is the school in
No,
Florida.
but it is. Sure.
But yeah, so then I lived in Orlando for a while after I graduated. And I've been to, Florida has political issues, but let's not get into that. But I've been to Florida. We did a road trip. We drove all the way down during the pandemic.
So you drove from New York down to Florida? Yeah, great trip, huh?
It was not bad. We were driving in February, and we're like, let's just do it. I didn't really want to fly at that point, so we drove all the way down to like the Palm Beach area, and
Right, okay.
it was easy, and it was really good to be there. So, but never mind me. So tell me more about what you're obsessed with about Florida. Like, what do you like? Where do you go?
I'm obsessed with all of it, and I haven't seen all of it yet, right? But so the Atlantic coast, once you get below, what is it? Probably like, is it Tampa on that side, or is it no? Tampa's on the other side, right? So whatever's on the so like maybe 2 hours above Stewart or something, it gets that tropical zone.
Yeah.
That whole coastline is just, that whole coastline, by the way, from Canada down is spectacular.
Definitely.
Going through Maryland or Delaware, going through Virginia, going through the Carolinas, going through Georgia. Those Outer Bank things and all that stuff is just really spectacular.
Yeah.
This last
that's the beach to me. That's what I think of, because I grew up here on the East Coast. So to me, it's like that Atlantic, and with those beaches, that's normal to me. Like when I think about California beaches, they're beautiful, but like it's not at all what I think of as the norm. But yeah, so all the way up and down the coast. So you get a little north of Stewart, and then you start feeling good because it's tropical.
Well, it just gets tropical. So it's like, except for probably maybe July, August, which is just too hot. Maybe a bit of June. The rest of the time, it's just the weather is just fantastic, right? So, you can, and then the water, the clarity of the water there is beautiful. And then you go up to the Gulf Coast, where I spent quite a bit of time too. I kind of don't even want to talk about it because I don't want anyone else to go there.
I know.
It's not, trust me, there's a lot of people there already. So
I know.
The secret's not out. But, oh man.
There's one place that to me is the best, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it, even though we're going to reveal it. Have you been to Marco Island?
No.
Really?
I've heard about it. No, I haven't. But I actually we looked at houses to go and stay there, but we didn't end up going there.
So that, I believe, is maybe the southernmost place on the Gulf Coast, right before you get to the Everglades. So, or I guess it's like it's actually west of the Everglades. I'm not really sure of the geography exactly, but I really like it there. The beaches there are so beautiful, and it's quiet. Maybe after this it won't be quiet, but yeah.
No, I know. Well, it's, now a lot of people are traveling in the U.S. anyway, and the whole place is kind of getting found out. But, and not to say you don't want to be, but the beaches that, nobody told me how spectacular the beaches are. The beautiful blue water, and the beach, that kind of real kind of sugary white color, and the people are fun, and just yeah.
Okay, so do you drive down? What do you do? Like, do you?
I know. Put it this way: I know next summer that I'm going back.
Okay, but summer is very hot there. It really is. It's very
on the
hot.
Gulf Coast. Firstly, I go there probably about May, beginning of June.
Okay.
So it's kind of hasn't got to that super hot. But if the Gulf Coast, I don't know about the Gulf Coast. Once you get like that lower part of the boot there, or whatever you want to call it, then it gets hot, right? But not that because I never felt overwhelmed heat wise. On that Gulf Coasty part.
So I've spent some time there, and I've never not been hot in the summer. I can say that, but I don't know. I haven't been everywhere in the middle of summer, but I've been in Gainesville in the middle of summer. I've been in Orlando in the middle of summer, and I've been in like that South Florida area on the East Coast in the middle of summer, and it's hot. And Key West also did that in July once. It was Hot.
Too hot. Yeah, too hot. Yeah. I hear that's beautiful too.
Where? Key West?
Key West, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Keys are they're like, of course they're
Yeah.
beautiful. It's like how did that even happen? It's so beautiful. So you have to keep me posted on that. Okay, so you're still exploring that. You're obsessed with America, so you want to go to other places too?
So Maryland, what a wonderful spot that is. North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. You ever been in Blue Ridge, Georgia?
No.
Oh, it's unbelievable. How's this one? Alabama.
I've never been to Alabama.
We were driving, so we were going along whatever that freeway is that goes the whole way along the bottom of the Gulf Coast there. From Florida, we were heading to New Orleans and on our way to California. And then that hurricane hit New Orleans. And we did this weird thing. And I was like, we don't want to go that way. I said, let's go north. We went north, then we got hit by a tornado. Next thing you know, we went up that way and we're kind of heading back east as opposed to heading west, right? This is all happening in, a few hours, right? And then we arrived in Selma, right? Is it Juneteenth? Is that what it's called? Juneteenth? Yeah. And we arrived on the Juneteenth celebration. We met this woman who lived next to Martin Luther King when she was a young girl. We went to his parish and did the march that they did, the Fuller March they did, everything, and had this really kind of extraordinary historical tour. I mean, it was really quite overwhelming, to be honest, because it was so touching and people that were so connected to it, so kind of sad in some ways and so prophetic and beautiful in other ways. And then from there went to a place a little further up north, and just found this resort that we went and just had this amazing time in. And then after that went to another place in Georgia. And just everywhere we went was just, the people were just so kind of engaging and connected and grounded. That saying, salt of the earth kind of thing. The salt of the earth, I guess, comes from a more coastal perspective, but it's an earthy kind of quality. It's a kind of grounded quality. And the antithesis of that, you've got, New York City, right? And everybody's buzzing around doing whatever. And not to criticize New York City, because I absolutely am loving. It took me a little while, by the way, to get used to it. When I first got there, I just thought that place was crazy. Crazy. I'm like, these people are nuts. I don't know how you do this. This is just absolutely nutty. I think I'm just gonna have to sit in the apartment. I just won't go out ever. And then slowly I'm like, this place, New York is unreal.
Yeah.
The city's unreal. Restaurants, obviously, everybody knows about that. I'm not saying anything new, but I mean also things like upstate New York, which we get to shoot at a lot. Connecticut. And I know that's Connecticut, and it's not New York, but it feels like New York, and it's kind of a part of the mix. Connecticut seems to be here, if that makes sense. Long Island. I mean, the history, the beauty. I mean, people always talk about the Hamptons. I remember living here years ago in the 90s, and I come out to the Hamptons, but it was, I was younger, and it was all kind of somewhat party oriented. You had friends, you had a friend or somebody new, or somebody had a house or something, whatever. And you came out and everybody was kind of having fun and throwing parties and all that kind of stuff. And it was all during summer. And then to actually experience this place in those not so popular months, and then throughout winter, it really kind of shows you the beauty and the kind of, I guess, the organic and original draw of this place, right? Of the island itself, the whole. I mean, Long Island's huge, by the way. I never even thought, like, I'm still trying to figure out why Manhattan became Manhattan. Like, wouldn't you build that on Long Island? It doesn't quite make sense.
Well, probably because it was protected a little bit, right? Because didn't they need to protect things to have a little bit of a harbor or something? Because wouldn't Long Island be too exposed, maybe? I don't know.
You know what? I've looked into a few different things, and the one that I keep going back to is Manhattan itself was built on a very specific bedrock that Long Island is not. and it's a bedrock that was used as a foundation, still used as a foundation. You can go down into the bedrock in Manhattan for like 5 stories and build foundations that you can't do on Long Island.
Oh, well, there you go. That makes sense, I guess.
Right. And then it was accompanied with the fact that a lot of the wealth, and the wealth was extraordinary at that point in time. What is it? Vanderbilts and Rothschilds and blah, 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 whatever, right? And there were quite a few. I know that's only a couple of names in the mix, but there were plenty. Started to kind of compete with each other in regards to building buildings. So the next thing you know, these buildings are just being built. They're literally being built just to outbuild the other one instead of, actually built to accommodate. Like the Empire State Building apparently was unoccupied for about 2 years.
That's so interesting. It's funny that you say that, because I just was listening last night to a podcast with Anderson Cooper as the guest on the podcast. And so he, of course, comes from the Vanderbilt family. So he was saying how a lot of these buildings that you see in New York now were actually mansions. So I forget who it was. I think his great grandfather or something, he had a mansion that is now, I want to say Bergdorf Goodman is actually what it is now. But that whole building was actually the family's home, which took up like a whole city block. But wait, I want to go back. I'm going to change the subject back to what you just said about salt of the earth, because I'm interested in that.
Sorry, I'm going all over the place here.
That's what I do too. I like it. This is the kind of talk I like. We did it last time. We're doing it this time. It's all good. So, so salt of the earth. So I'm wondering. So do you like to kind of just get to know and talk to people who you meet along the way in life? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you like to,
that to me is what it's all about.
I get that from you. I feel like I could see you on these road trips and you're going through all these different places. And do you like to just kind of get to know people and what their story is?
It's everybody, and I think, my dad was a politician. And so he was he was a natural politician, not a forced one. Does that make sense? Like that,
Yeah.
It suited his personality. Like he liked going. In Australia, they call it your electorate, right? So if you're the mayor of New York City, my dad liked going around the city and shaking hands and saying hello, and And then my mom was just always known as like she could, you'd find her at a gala with the Queen, and then the next day you'd see her at a pub, with a truck driver next door. You know what I mean? So there was no real. It wasn't classist, or it wasn't kind of elitist or anything like that. It was this everything. It was all cultures, all people, and so it can be anybody from the guy you met at the front gate to the guy at the room next door to and that's kind of those conversations are the fun ones, because you get to learn about the people, and you get to learn about the travels, you get to learn about the areas, you get to learn about and some of these places, particularly in when we're in Georgia and Alabama, I mean, the people are just so interesting to talk to. And a lot of them have been there their whole lives, and then they really don't kind of leave that area at all, and if at all, maybe just kind of short periods of time.
Right.
But there's just and there's a calmness to it that is kind of soothing, right? Like we were talking about earlier. That just kind of makes you feel. It kind of makes you want to open up and have conversation. You know what I mean?
Right. Because it's like all about the human connection, and it's really all about people. It's like everything in life is really just about people. I feel like, at least I've come to realize that, or this is what I feel like more and more. Everybody's so interesting. So I'm interested also in hearing everybody's stories, but I also like what you're saying, that ability to it just feels good to be interacting and getting to know people. It just feels right. So do people recognize you though? Like, is that kind of a barrier for you, or do you feel like they don't if you're out just meeting people here and there?
Some do, some don't, but I don't really care. You know what I mean? I don't really. I mean, you can tell when somebody's a little funky. You can tell when somebody's maybe a little too kind of. But I mean, I don't even mind. I mean, I don't mind any of them, to be honest. I mean, maybe I did more when I was younger or something. But I don't know. It's all it's all part of the journey, right? It's all kind of, I also like look at it as if it's kind of what I'm asking for,
Okay.
right? I mean, I didn't put myself in front of a camera and put it on TV screens all around the country for people to ignore me.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of think it's part of the thing, and as I was saying a moment ago with my dad being a politician, there's a part of that politician in being an actor for me. It's part of the, um, I kind of enjoy the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy that I feel blessed that they've spent time watching a show or watching another show or watching a movie that I did or whatever it is. I mean,
Right. And it feels to me like you're probably the same no matter what. Like whether people recognize you and you're Julian McMahon when they're talking to you, or you're just somebody who they happen to run into who struck up a conversation with them. I feel like you would be the same way. Or is there pressure because is there pressure to be a certain way? I feel like even if there is, I don't feel like you even buy into it.
I don't think so, and I don't even look at that as pressure. I look at that as kind of cool. What do we talk about next? What do you do? You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of the
Yes.
thing, right? It's been an
Yeah.
interesting thing being on this show too, because playing an FBI agent and then kind of being in the mix of this kind of group of people that I work with in New York. It's just these kind of hardworking, family oriented, good people, like the good people. You know what I mean? And so then I don't feel like, I mean, it might sound naive, and I'm certainly not. I'm aware of it. I can't help but be aware of it, having lived the life that I've lived. But, I kind of look at us like we're all part of the mix, right? So you're just as interesting as I am, just in fact, maybe even more so. I mean, there's some characters out there, man, and I love them.
That's for sure. And you're definitely
Right?
seeing them also in New York, but they're not just in New York. They're all over. There are some
They're all over.
interesting characters out there.
Oh
Personally,
yeah.
I love a character. I love them. The more interest, I just feel like so many people can be so interesting, and the more somebody is so who they are,
Uh-huh.
the more fascinating they are.
Oh, it's so joyful,
Yeah.
right? Somebody is who they are, and I mean, and, whatever that is, I find it just so inspiring.
Right. So you're definitely a product of how you grew up in certain ways. And how about your mother? Was she like a politician personality, a natural politician like your father?
Um, she was more on the social side of things, and she kind of headed up a lot of charities. She was what we would call in Sydney a socialite, but she was certainly one that was kind of looked up to or admired, or and did a lot for the community. The community of Sydney, which is where she spent most of the time, or wherever that was, even up to Queensland and probably most of Australia, to be honest. Um, she invested a lot of her time in all of that stuff, community stuff, charity stuff. And so, whilst it doesn't establish the title politician, it's good. It all is,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. So, what is, let's say, reflecting back on your whole life and meeting all these different people all over your family, your parents, you've been in so many, you've lived in different places, now you're obsessed with road trips. What have you learned about people? Like, if you would summarize some kind of lesson or theory you've developed about people, what would it be?
That would probably be that I don't know anything. I've still got everything to learn. Oh gosh, that's a tough question. Well, it's interesting talking about the two different types of atmosphere that we were just talking about now. Let's say, and you're talking about New Yorkers and then people from Alabama and Georgia and Florida and whatever else. I guess it's a bit of an old adage, don't judge a book by its cover, because as much as you would, you can feel the salt of the earth type person in Georgia, and then you watch people race past you in New York City. The people in New York City are just as good. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like I remember the other day, it was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the place is always moving. You know what I mean? Moving, the streets are moving. There's bikes and walking people and cars and trucks, and it's just going. It's all, you know what I mean? And then something happened in the middle of one of the walkways, and a lady had fallen over.
Oh.
And she was fine, but it was fascinating, the response. Everybody stopped. Everybody. The truck driver.
Did they help?
Yeah, they all got out of their cars, guy across the street, I went over, it was this amazing kind of moment. And I was like, oh, you could feel it, because when you talk to, the guy who opens the door at the thing, or you can feel them, and you can feel there's this thing there, but they're moving, they know that's the life, right? And when something happens, it was quite an extraordinary moment, right? Because you kind of look at them, and if you're an Alabamian, you go, those people are too quick and too fast and whatever else.
But no, right, no. They may be rushing, but they don't not feel or not prioritize people. I think they may look busy, but it doesn't mean. I agree. I think New Yorkers get a bad rap in terms of that. It's an image everybody has, but it's not really true.
It might have been more kind of astonishing, let's call it, to be able to move that quickly, and then if something happens, stop, take heed. You know what I mean? I mean, I think people are just, I love doing what I do because I love exploring people. It's interesting on our show, because, you get all these actors come in every episode, you get different group of actors, and so you get different group of people. And so you get introduced to all of these people, and you get to see all these different personalities, and you get to see them. The great thing about having to go on camera is you really get to see people. It's not a walk in the park. You come on a set, and you have to get in front of a camera with 150 people watching you, and they're all standing around eating the ice cream. You know what I mean? It's like, and you got to go and be the best you can on for whatever period of time it is, and you really get to see these people for who they are, because when it's the stress is there, right?
Yeah.
You get to see the truth in a little bit, and it's kind of this beautiful thing. And so I guess, to answer your question, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know, people keep amazing me, I guess.
I think also that how you treat them is probably key to how they feel, because they go on set and you're the main guy, right? And so they're probably, especially people coming in, it's not their show. They're not that comfortable. They don't know the whole deal. Like you're saying, they're nervous or whatever. They're not sure. And then they come in and you can be one way or another to them. They don't know how you're going to be, but I'm sure I know how you are with them. I can feel it. You're the way that you're talking about right now. Like that's how you are now is probably how you are then with them. And it probably makes a difference, and then it helps them do their thing better. That's just an assumption I'm going to make based on what I know about you.
I love kind of, I love watching them shine,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say, because when I say that to anybody, I always, I do come from a kind of slightly British upbringing, and so you don't ever like to, I always found it difficult to take a compliment, all that kind of stuff, right? I had to learn that, and I think from my wife and my daughter, who allowed me to kind of do that kind of thing. But I was brought up in the whole kind of very British, about, never toot your own horn kind of thing. But I do love, and I always say that I love it because it makes the show better, you know what I mean? But I do actually really love watching people express themselves and watching them dig in and do good. right? I love people walking away at the end of the day and going, oh, that felt good,
Yes.
right?
So I'm thinking to myself, my wheels are turning as I'm doing this. And if you weren't so busy, I would ask you to, every so often, I actually have somebody interview me on my show. And I
Yeah.
feel like you would be good at that because
That
of your interest. What?
I'll do that for sure. I'm not too busy. I am.
Really? Yes, you are busy. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I just have to come up with a few more fake doctor's appointments. That was a real doctor's appointment. I had doctor's appointment. But,
Please, it took so long for us to get this talk back on the books.
But you know what? I'm so excited because it kind of happened exactly the way it was meant to. And thank you for having me back on, by the way. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to.
But I'll do that in a heartbeat. I would love to do that.
Really? Would you like to sit in the interviewer's chair?
Yeah. I'm not sure how good I'd be, but I would love it.
I feel like because you're interested in humanity, right? And I feel like I sense it. I know who would be good and who wouldn't. That's why I'm thinking of it. That's why the wheel started turning. So if you have time and you want to do it, let's do it. And if you don't, then let's not. It's no big deal.
I would do that for sure. So do I come up with the questions or so I can kind of, okay, great. I'll do that for sure.
And they can be any kind of questions, like whatever actually interests you. So I'll give you a little tip as an interviewer is, for me personally, I may have a list of questions ahead of time that I might consider, or topics that I might consider bringing up. But the best conversations and the best interviews, in my opinion, come from listening during the interview. When you find yourself interested in what the person's saying, then you follow up on that. So that's my approach. So you could come up with questions, but it doesn't have to be that kind of thing where it's
allow it to. Yeah.
And I think that would be natural for you anyway. So that I personally really like to listen to interviews like that or watch interviews like that much more than these just strict questions and answers. So I think it's easier also.
I'm not very good at the strict question answer, just so you know.
Oh, you're not?
Not really, because when I go on those dog shows that are very kind of time driven, because I ramble too much. You know what I mean? And I also like to finish a thought before, or I like to finish something before I move on to the other thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So even if the question was, what did you have for breakfast? And then the next question is, where are you going tomorrow? I got to finish my breakfast story before I move on to my tomorrow story, if that makes sense. So
I can't watch shows like that either, because to me, they feel so unnatural. Like, it's cringy for me to watch that a lot of times, because I know, especially the ones that are pre-produced and rehearsed ahead of time or whatever, like the late night shows. But because of that, you need that kind of platform where you can talk in that way. So that's why I think you'll be good at this, because it is that slower paced.
Yes. Oh yeah.
All right, so I'm going to leave it up to you, and then if you feel like you want to do it for sure, then you tell me when it works for you.
No, we're going to do it for sure.
Okay.
So it might take me a little bit to. How long do you have a season, or do you kind of?
Yeah, so I don't really have a season. I keep going.
So if we did February, March or something, would that work?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool.
So let's do that.
Yeah, because let me think. Yeah, because January, February, kind of gotta get ready for January, February.
Who are you telling? I know it kills me, but that's why we get in the car and drive to Florida, and I'll be doing the same thing in February at a certain point.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's because we spend 10 hours outside every day during January, February.
Right. So you really feel it. I forgot. You're really out there.
So last night I was shooting, it was 32 degrees.
So do they dress you? Do they give you the things that you need to be able to do that?
Personally, nobody dresses me, because nobody understands how much I need to put on to be able to cope with because I'm Australian, right? So I grew up in Sydney or Queensland. And if a go below 70, you're heading north to get in more sun. Right. And then same with California. In Los Angeles, if a couple of 70, I start putting on thermals.
Love it.
Try-
So what do you do then? How do you dress? How do you dress warmly enough for these location shoots?
Oh man, I layer like crazy. I've come up with a routine of like how, depending on the temperature. It's really been quite bizarre lately, actually, because the temperature we started out at upstate New York the other day. It was 28 degrees, started in the morning.
Brutal.
And then in the middle of the day it was 55. So you can imagine how I had to shed the layer.
That's why layers are perfect. Layers are exactly perfect for this weird weather.
I do layers, and you've always got to keep your feet warm. Your feet are key, right? So you got to have. I do those like UGG insole things in all my shoes, and then I do those heater things. Those heater things that you can slide into your.
The toe warmers.
Yeah, but then the whole foot. It's the toe warmer thing, but it's a whole foot.
Oh, I think I need those. Are they big though? Do they take up a lot of space?
No. They're so good. The only thing is you got to find a way to get them in properly so they don't kind of bunch up and feel uncomfortable. Once you've got that down, you're good.
Okay, I'm gonna look for those because my feet get freezing in the winter. That's the one thing.
When feet are cold, the whole body gets cold.
Yeah, and then what do you do for your hands?
Hands, I just wear thick gloves, and if I get cold, I stuff those hand warmer things in the gloves.
Right. And then you have to hold a gun and stuff in the show.
I use gloves. Now, I'm not saying that's the most professional way to do it if you're the FBI guy, but the difference between me and an FBI agent is, aside from the obvious, is that I'm out for, 6 hours of time, then I take a half-hour break, and then I'm out for another 6 hours. You know what I mean? So, and I'm out the whole time, most of the time. So it's not like you go and you get the bad guy and within an hour or whatever, you're inside somewhere. I'm out the whole time.
Right.
So you have to me, for me, the way that I find that it works best is you have to maintain your body warmth that whole time, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that is, that's what I try to do.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I have to wrap up because I'm going to. I have another thing. I'm going to see Howie Mandel tonight. I've never seen him perform. Yeah.
Oh, I love Howie Mandel.
I have not actually seen him perform. This will be the first time, but
is he going to do his? Did you ever? I mean, I don't know if you knew.
The glove, right? The glove.
Did you ever see his stuff in the 90s?
I've heard him talk about it, but I don't think I've even seen it. I mean, I remember watching him on the show St. Elsewhere back in the day, in it must have been the 80s. That wasn't his comedy; he was acting.
Just because I don't want to warn you for anything or whatever. But you got to look once you've gone and seen him and enjoy and go. But once you've done it, go look up some of the stuff that he used to do.
Okay.
In the 90s, because he's crazy.
Okay, I will totally do that. I'm going to look him up after. I want to do one last thing, but you also brought up, I actually brought it up, I guess, with the gun thing. What are your thoughts on that whole situation with the Alec Baldwin film shoot? Because you have a gun. You have a gun every episode probably, right? Yeah.
I mean, what a horrible thing to happen to anybody and everybody. And particularly those involved, but it rippled through the whole industry and those kind of things, We're very diligent. And most of the time we're flat. We don't have any guns that could even close to operate, right? So there's nothing that ever comes to our set that could even remotely fire something out of it.
Oh, okay. But isn't that how it should be? Why isn't every set like that?
Well, look, I'm guessing sometimes, particularly if you're doing a period piece, you can't get guns like that, or I don't know.
But it's like Hollywood; they can make anything, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you do, right, is you go to a old gun store and you get the old-looking guns, and they're all those things are meant to be plugged.
Yeah.
But the one thing it has done is just made us more conscious. So. All of our, we have everything we deal with is replica. We don't have anything that's actually realistic on our set, and never have. By the way, we were always very, I think that being in the woke world and dealing with all of that stuff on such a consistent basis, they have to be so careful.
Yeah,
and we're always really kind of on it. and now even more so.
That makes sense. I wish everything was like that. It seems like it should be.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up. Thank you for that too. Let's be in touch about you being the interviewer.
Yeah. And if I don't, if you don't hear from me or something, just remind me, because I do get a little weird in January, February.
Okay. So
I was too cold.
I feel you.
I think I start to freeze.
Okay. I'm going to keep that in mind.
That was Julian McMahon. Stay tuned for an extra little bonus bit. And by the way, my Alexa story actually involved a dollhouse, and I'm not 100% clear what the details of that story are, but yes, it was Dollhouse. Also, the name of the mall where they taped that special mid-season episode is the American Dream, which is at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Links to my first talk with Julian, our YouTube videos, my talk with Jeremy Sisto, and my Amazon shop are in today's show notes. Coming your way very soon, I talk to an Olympic champion, a Broadway god, a talk show icon, and many more exciting and fascinating guests. And stay tuned for my special episode where Julian interviews me. Well, if we ever get that on the books. I'm Kara. Thanks for hanging out with me and Julian. Talk to you very soon.
I also always like to offer one of these mugs. Would you like a mug, a really famous mug? Oh wait, I feel like it's not showing up. It's a nice big mug. It says really famous.
I love a mug.
Okay, so tell me where to send
What
it.
do you got in there?
I have water.
Oh, okay.
I have water for when I'm taping. I usually put water in, but I normally, my favorite thing in the winter, this helps me in the winter because my hands get so cold. I heat up water and I just squeeze lemon juice into it, and then I hold it, and it actually warms up my fingers and my body.
Oh,
Hot
nice.
water with lemon.
Because I've been doing a lot of teas lately. I've been doing can't do teas.
Can't do that. I keep trying. I cannot.
Oh, you know what? I gotta make you a tea. So how's this for an example? So because Harney and Sons does like some of my favorite teas, right? But they also just came out with their holiday blends, right? So they got the hot cinnamon spice, and then they got the holiday tea, and then they got the white Christmas tea. And the guy who drives me back and forth to set is this great guy named Rich. And he's such a sweetheart. Every morning he gets the coffee, right? And lately we've been so early that the coffee shops are not open. And I also switched last week. I switched from coffee to tea because every now and then I like to take a break from coffee and just drink tea. Okay. So I went to these holiday blends, and he's like, I get my tea. He's like, he's like, it's okay. I can feel him going, you know. And I'm like, okay, I've got to, because I like perfecting those little things. Right?
Okay.
Oh, you gotta go. What am I talking about? Anyway, so I made him another one of exactly the same tea, and I gave it to him. I was like, this is really good. But I had to find the right balance. You gotta find the right balance of hot water, the tea, and a little bit of honey. Okay, you got to find the right. I get you. I get you, but I'm gonna prove some other kind of theories on that one. But you go enjoy, Howie, and thank you. What a pleasure as always, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, that was our second talk. The third talk is in the next episode. It's labeled Julian McMahon Tribute 2 of 2.